Good Thursday morning. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Gary is out today. He is currently on a plane back from Denver after the Omaha Mavericks stormed away last night with a massive victory over the Denver Pioneers in the Summit League, winning their fifth game to begin Summit League play. That's a conference record, and their seventh game in a row. That's a conference record. Gary will be back in tomorrow. I'm joined today, like I was yesterday, by my very good friend, Caleb Henry. On the ones and twos is Jimmy Chavez. Should be a really good show for us today. Got a really great lineup. Our lineup is brought to you by our partners at John Roofery's. We have Steve Sipple at 8:30. Wilson Moore will join before him at 8 o'clock, and Brian Edwards at 9:45. Reason I'm getting to the lineup really quickly today, as we typically don't do. Typically, we go back and forth, and then we give you the lineup. But the thing that I love about this show, about Gary and Matt, and it's in its infancy stage here, most definitely at 1620 The Zone. It's been about...
You just wanted to sleep through the night.
Yeah, it's been about 4 or 5 weeks since Gary and I have gotten on the air and began this journey along with Jimmy, who's been so great as our producer. And
they've kept around.
The thing that I love about this show is that Gary and I, our vision for it was we want to bring a show that is all about having fun and having entertainment and cultivating great conversations, not only just about Husker sports and Creighton sports and Omaha sports, but just about sports in general. And our goal is always to have great conversations that get you thinking about sports and get you learning about certain things that maybe you didn't learn about, while also giving you a laugh. But what I also appreciate about this show is that there are times to be unserious, which is quite a bit, but there are also times to be serious. And I think the beginning of the show is definitely one of those times to be serious, because yesterday we lost an incredibly valuable and important member of not just the Husker sports community, but just the Nebraska community, the Nebraska State community, when Jack Hoffman passed away yesterday at the age of 19. For those who don't know Jack's story, at the age of 5, he was diagnosed with pediatric brain cancer. He was a massive, massive Husker fan, still was a Husker fan, till he passed away yesterday. And 2011, when he was diagnosed with pediatric brain cancer, I mean, it is one of the most difficult forms of just any sort of disease to get over, and there really wasn't a ton of options for him. And his father, Andy, went far and wide to find treatments for him, to find Jack the best opportunity to live his life in the best possible way. And so they went out to Boston and found a doctor, and they were able to do really, really great work on Jack. And this was in about 2011. And Jack, who was like I said, massive Cornhusker football fan, was able to meet his favorite player, Rex Burkhead. Rex very infamously, during the team's 2011 comeback win over the Ohio State Buckeyes, brought up Jack's name in the locker room when the team was trailing and said, hey, if Jack's fighting, we can fight. That culminated in 2013 when Jack, during the Husker spring game, look, to say that the run where he took the ball from Taylor Martinez and ran the ball 69 yards down the field in front of 60-something thousand fans and was endeared by the entirety of the Husker football team in the end zone, to say that was a viral moment is the understatement of the century. It's not just viral. That's a historical moment. When we talk about that great football program, we talk about the memories that are made in Memorial Stadium. That is one of the first memories that comes to many people's minds, especially people who were there. After that, Jack and his family made the incredibly courageous decision to start the Team Jack Foundation, which at this point has raised over, I believe, $12 million
Over 12.
for pediatric brain cancer, and has done so much good, not only just in the Nebraska community, but just the cancer community, the research community, the health community. And to go through a fight like that is unspeakable in terms of difficulty. But to turn that fight and to turn that difficulty, not only that's being dealt with by Jack, but dealt with by Jack's family, to turn that hardship into something so positive and so profound and so impactful, like the Team Jack Foundation that has done so many great things for so many people, is what I cannot commend the Hoffmans anymore. And I cannot just speak to their bravery and their courage, and just how during this difficult time in their life, they turned something so horrendous into something beautiful, something that can help others. Jack's father, Andy, unfortunately passed away in 2021 to his own battle with brain cancer. My heart goes out to Mrs. Hoffman, Bree Hoffman. I think I speak for everybody when I just cannot imagine the pain and suffering that she's going through, losing her baby boy and losing her husband in such a short time. My heart, my deepest condolences, not only for myself, but from Gary and from 1620, the entire show, go out to her. Jack Hoffman, for how young he was, left such an incredible legacy. He left such an incredible impact, not only on the people that knew him, but on the people that didn't know him, and the people that just knew about his story and that just watched the historic run at Memorial Stadium and that had listened to the Team Jack radiothons and had donated to the Team Jack Foundation and followed, his journey. And man, Stuart Scott famously once said, you don't beat cancer by just beating cancer. You beat cancer by how you live and why you live. And Jack lived an incredible life in such a short time and impacted so many people during that time. And so once again, our thoughts and hearts and condolences go out to the Hoffman family. It's a major loss to the Nebraska community. And while we will sit here and I'm sure share memories and whatnot, it is important to say that while it's a terrible loss, it's something, Jack's life, Jack's legacy, what he left behind is something to celebrate. The impact that he made is something to celebrate. The money that his story helped raise is something to celebrate. And so while it's an incredibly appropriate time to revel in the fact that he is no longer here, and it also is important to recognize that him and his family did so much for so many people. I hope, and I'll say this before I get to you, Caleb, because I know that you have so much experience with the Team Jack Foundation and have personal antidotes and whatnot, but I want to get this out here. Number one, I really hope that tonight at PBA, before the Nebraska Cornhuskers take on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, that there is some sort of moment of silence or recognition or ceremony for Jack and his family. And secondly, I really do hope that there is a conversation in the athletic department about some way to honor Jack, whether it be inside the stadium or outside the stadium, or something that can just cement his legacy, because he was way more than just a 5-year-old kid with pediatric brain cancer. He was way more than a 7-year-old kid who was being honored by the team. He's way more than a 19-year-old who tragically passed away from this disease. He is a legacy of Husker sports, a legacy of Nebraska. He is someone who, like I said over and over again, has just made a profound impact on the state and on research. And that is something that should never, ever be forgotten. So in saying all that, rest in peace, Jack Hoffman. My condolences out to the Hoffman family. I'll pass it over to Caleb Henry here. Caleb.
Well, you talk about, for that young man over the last 15 years, he was part of not just Husker Nation, but like Husker athletics.
Yes.
Because of the things that come out, you have the road race and the money that gets raised there. You have the Team Jack Radiothon, which ran through the Huskers radio network, and that's how it was distributed. And our own Jack Mitchell had a lot of experience with that. John Bishop, if you extend the NRG family, and obviously he's doing other things now, but Cody Kevin Thomas. I did a lot of stuff when I was down at KLIN, but when I worked at in Central Nebraska with the Team Jack Radiothon, I ran one of them one year.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of those interviews, which are really tough to have.
So tough.
Because I know, thinking about like the stuff that we've gone in here, I know our buddy John Bishop, like his like they've gone through some stuff. I haven't gone through that.
Yeah.
So you have some of those conversations with people, and it's like that hits rough. That's hard.
You can never imagine it happening to you, and you can never imagine it happening to someone that you truly love. It really is one of those things, and it's.
I say that because Jack Hoffman for the last 15 years was a part of Husker athletics, and you think about anyone who has a legacy that lasts more than for Husker athletes or athletes at any college, longer than their time on campus. Coaches longer than their time on campus. What Team Jack ultimately became, not just for the Hoffmans or the Atkinson community or the state of Nebraska, and what you saw future players that weren't part of that 2013 spring game. There were players that were still deeply involved with what the mission of Team Jack was and is, and as you said, more than $12 million pledged since 2013. Jack at that time, that run won an ESPY.
Yeah, he met the president.
He met the president. Like there are so many things that come out of there, and what you got in you talk about, it's the way they went about and kind of attacked this for Jack as a family, as a community in Atkinson, as Nebraskans. I said yesterday on social media, I was like, this wasn't just their fight; it became all of our fight.
Absolutely.
You don't know how you'll react to moments until they are thrust upon you. It's everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
You don't know. You hope as a parent, and this is something that I've maybe figured out a little bit more over the last 4 years. Matt, this will hit you in a different way.
Sure.
And that's not a knock on you at all. Just saying that this will hit you in a different way. God forbid anything comes up with my daughter. I hope I attack it half as well as Andy Hoffman did. Half as well, because to take what happened in 2011, turn that into fighting for your son, turning it into a foundation, turning it into a movement, the number of lives that could have been impacted. Let's say the Hoffmans just went, we're going to do the best by our son only. Nothing wrong with that at all. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No.
But they took it that step further and said, this isn't just our son's issue. This is our issue as a community, as a state, as a nation, as a people, and turned it into the foundation. The number of lives, and I've talked to these people who have been impacted by this. Some who are still around, some unfortunately who are not. But the way that Hoffman family, and especially what Andy was able to do for a decade since finding out that his son had cancer, is incredible. There are, as I know you were looking up a lot of stuff about this yesterday too.
Sure.
I was reading back through all of the old stories, watching, of course,
might as well.
that run, that video, and you think about, okay, where do you feel the good coming out of something, out of an event, out of someone's life? There are two things that I take solace in. One, the number of lives that have been impacted by the Hoffmans. That they took something that could have just been a tragedy for them and said, over the next 15 years, we're going to impact so many people, and for the better. And number two, and this is a part that's really tough, Andy got his boy back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, You think about the number of things. I told you I was going to
I
cry.
know.
I told you I was
let
going
it
to.
out. Man, you've
But
been incredibly connected.
But it's tough because my sister married into that community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to know a lot of folks in Atkinson a lot better. I worked with Team Jack for a lot of years. And it's just, and for me, this is the part that over the last 4 years, I think when I became a dad, I got a lot of stat boosts.
Sure.
And in one of those things is I feel so much more when things become about kids and their connection to parents.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that Andy put up that fight for a decade and then had to have his own fight. But ultimately, what he's doing is he led the path and said, my son's not going to go before me.
Mm-hmm.
So the two things, the number of lives impacted, and that our guy, Andy Hoffman, got his son back and he was there waiting for him. I've got it up on the on our social media, teamjackfoundation.org. Obviously, they're going to continue to do stuff. But in all of this, praying for the Hoffman family, the Atkinson community. I do expect that the Huskers will do something, but yeah, just praying for them. Jack lived a hell of a life, and we'll have a lot of other conversations this morning. But Matt, I do thank you for obviously getting to come up and hang out with you for a couple of days.
Sure.
But for us to have this conversation, because I know a lot of people were impacted by the Hoffmans and Jack and his story and him getting to play high school football at West Holt. And we celebrated those achievements, him going to UNK and studying pre-law and celebrating those achievements. Those kind of became all of our achievements that as we followed him and
making the dean's list.
Yeah. All of those things, unfortunately, not all battles are meant to be won in their entirety. But like you said, it's the way he lived his life for the last 15 years, the way the Hoffmans carried forward, and of course the Team Jack Foundation in whatever form it is going forward. We're still fighting for Jack. That's ultimately what it is. You're still trying to raise that money for pediatric brain cancer research that is still severely underfunded.
Yes.
But all of the work that they have done over the last decade and a half, that's got to carry forward. So I do encourage you, and I've linked it all over the place on my social media too. I'm hoping that the Team Jack Foundation is waking up and as they're going through this process too, and saying there's a lot of people that are still here to support them.
So I do want to continue this conversation a little bit in this regard. You and I both worked at KLIN. You're actually the guy who hired me at KLIN. And, we ran those Team Jack radiothons, and I had stepped in a couple times to help out with that and make sure that everything ran smoothly. And yesterday, lucky enough, Jack Mitchell, who also was a part of our KLIN team, who still is hosting the morning show at KLIN, happened to be on 1620 The Zone with John Bishop and on Sportsmanlike Conduct. And, I just want to reiterate what Jack was kind of talking about yesterday, where, the treatments for pediatric brain cancer when Jack was diagnosed with it were severely lacking. There just wasn't, it just hadn't advanced in the manner that
it was decades old.
Yes.
Like nobody had come through with because the research wasn't there.
Mhm.
They were still using methods that it was like, well, this is the way it was done in the 90s.
Yes.
And guys, there's some great things that were done in the 90s, but when it comes to surgery, when it comes to research, when it comes to taking care of things that are life-changing in a way that cancer is, that stuff wasn't there in the early 2010s. No. And not even close.
And the Hoffmans knew that they were fighting an uphill battle. And as opposed to, like you kind of just said, fighting it on their own, they knew that they didn't want anyone to go through what they were going through, in the regard that the treatments to help their son survive were decades and decades behind where it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they exuded so much effort, so much time, so much love, so much heart into making sure that they got the money, that they advanced the research, that they could help others, that they could not allow people that they could spare people from going through as difficult as a time as they were going through. Um, I'm a young alumni of Nebraska football, and I think often people ask, what do young fans of Nebraska football or Nebraska athletics have to hang their hat on? They weren't born in the '90s. They weren't really alive during all the winning. What are the core memories that people remember about Husker football? And from people my age, one of the things that they always talk when you ask people my age, what do you remember? The run in 2013 at that spring game is one of the first. I talked to so many people who I graduated with, who are younger than me, who are a little bit older than me, who are around the same age as me. They've always brought up how much of an impact that moment had, because we were kids my age. We weren't that far away from where Jack was in terms of age. Jack was 7 years old.
Yeah,
right?
You weren't that far.
I
off.
was 9 years old,
Yeah.
right? And now I wasn't there. Now I do remember that moment, and one of those things that people did ask me, like, why Nebraska? Like, what do you remember about Nebraska? One of the things is, well, I remember that run. I remember that Jack coming out there and doing that run in the spring game, and how that was a massive, not just national, but global moment because of how inspirational it was for a kid to have that, and for a team and athletic department to come together, and the ESPYs and the meeting the president. I remember, that's one of the very, honestly, few moments of, I remember of Nebraska athletics in general before I started looking at coming to the university. And so all that to say that, that moment just has such a profound impact on this new generation of Husker fans, just because of the you start thinking about, well, what if that was me? What if I was in his shoes? He's 7, I'm 9. I'm sure there are 7-year-olds who thought, I'm 7, he's 7. He's got cancer. All that type of stuff. And so, it's just one of those stories that affects people very differently, whether you're older, whether you're younger, but it all has an effect on us. And for the Hoffman family to take that story, to take that moment, to take that vulnerability, to take the just horrible, horrible, horrible situation of their little baby boy having brain cancer, and turning it into something that has such a massive impact on people way more spread out than just Husker athletics in Nebraska, but all over, is something truly, truly incredible. But once again, Jack Hoffman passed away yesterday at the age of 19. Our condolences go out to Bree Hoffman and the entire Hoffman family and friends. We're all praying for you. And you're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All righty, we're going to keep it rolling here on 1620 The Zone. You're listening to Gary and Matt. I'm Matt McMaster. Gary Sharp out today. He'll be back tomorrow. I think he's currently in an aeroplane on his way back to the great city of Omaha. Aeroplane.
Great song.
Back to Omaha, Nebraska right now. I am joined today by my friend and former co-worker, Caleb Henry.
Everyone's friend.
Everybody's friend, Caleb Henry.
You've got a friend in me.
We do want to, before we get on to the rest of the show, once again, I just want to give our hearts and thoughts out to the Hoffman family, to Bree Hoffman, after Jack Hoffman passed away yesterday. If you're watching on the stream, Caleb has it at the teamjackfoundation.org if you want to contribute to the charity that helps with pediatric brain cancer.
Funding that research.
All righty, boys. I have to, because I butchered it in the beginning because it was such a solace beginning to the show, and just thinking about how to honor him properly.
He'll give you a pass.
He's our friend. We do have an incredible show for you today. Today's lineup is powered by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. Like I said, 8 o'clock, Wilson Moore will join us. At 8:30, we'll be joined by the impeccable and undeniable and unequivocal Steve Sipple. And then at 9:45, who is red hot right now, by the way, Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, will join us. BE had one heck of a week last weekend, and I know that because I tailed him.
So he had a heck of a week, is what he said.
We had.
Yeah, go pump your chest out a little bit.
We had a heck of a week, and I will be sure to tell him that when he comes on at 9:45. Big day in Husker sports. You know, we're at the point right now in just sports in general, and I kind of told you this before you get to the break, before we got to this segment, right? Where Mondays and Fridays are the big day. Because Mondays we recap the weekend, and Fridays we go into the weekend. But
the other
Tuesday,
three
Wednesday,
are just throwaways.
Thursday are kind of, they're not throwaways.
They're just
no
days.
such
On
thing.
Thursdays we preview Friday.
Yes, yeah.
And you know what's after Friday? The weekend.
The weekend.
Here's what we got on Saturday.
And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, it's all about, okay, hopefully we get a good story, and hopefully we
just trying to
do
survive.
stuff. But we're very fortunate today as the Huskers play what is essentially a must-win game.
Ladies' night.
Ladies' night. You gonna have a sangria tonight? You'll be there.
Specialty number 32 sangria.
Not Santeria.
So why is it specialty 32? Is there a special?
No, crystal ball. Sorry.
The Nina, the Pinta.
Sublime.
Same era.
Yeah, close enough there. I don't know that I will even try a sangria
I feel like at this point you have to try a sangria. If you're at ladies' night
to see how they did,
and you will not be writing the night. You will be
well, I will write when I get home.
But
so,
you will be
I will be there as a fan.
Yes,
because
wining and dining.
Because one of the guys on our softball team, the place that he worked, the team you used to be on.
Yes, I'm no longer on the team.
What, you've been kicked off?
No, I asked off.
He was what is it, designated for assignment back to Chicago.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I got sent down to.
Then his contract came up. We didn't re-up. It's a whole deal.
He's back.
And then I got picked up by Connor Happer's team.
Oh yeah, the Monstars, if you will. But we one of the guys on our team, his workplace has one of the suites, and he won it. And so we're going as like a team.
As
I'm actually
a family.
Yeah, if you're watching on the stream, I'm actually wearing like our team jersey.
Did you have to sign like a chaperone deal? Did you have to ask your parents for permission for your to sign your slip so you can go on this field trip with your team, or are there any
Sir, I'm
at night.
13 years older than you. Let's not.
Many are.
You never went on field trips before growing up, Caleb Henry?
It has been like 20 years since I went on a field trip.
When was your last field trip, Jimmy Chavez?
The senior skip day count in January of 2001.
Sure.
Close enough.
There were no school. That's a lie.
I went
district police to make their presence felt later on in the day.
I went on field trip my senior year of college.
But what I'm saying is, I will be there as a fan with the rest of our dumb wreck Jack Mitchell softball experience softball team.
I feel like you have to have sangria.
It'll be a good time. I'm
with Matt here.
It looks awful.
I'm not a sangria guy. But
is there a picture of it on the?
Yeah, we looked it up yesterday.
Okay,
you were in this studio.
I know, but I was.
You were part of this conversation.
I did not have a computer in front of me. I did not see. Well,
Because Happer looked it up during the crossover.
Oh, I'm saying though that like you said you saw it. I thought you said you saw the specific specialty 32
No.
PBA. Okay.
No. I just saw
I think you have
what
to see
is
it.
a
Sangria
sangria.
is pretty good.
Is it?
I've had a bottled sangria before. It ain't bad.
It looked like
Here's the
garbage.
thing.
I haven't had a
Worst
sangria in
comes to
20
worst.
years.
Worst
but
comes to worst. You
Does
buy
it
the
taste like
sangria.
Kentucky?
Well, they have. That's a mint
Chicken.
julep. I think that's a mint julep. Don't they drink those? They drink that for the Derby.
I drink
I
a
was,
lot of things.
I was talking
especially in
about the
infield.
whiskey, but
Yeah.
Okay.
You know Canadian beers. With the moonshine.
Lablat. Is it Lablat?
Labatt?
Lablat Blue? Labatt Blue? Labatt
Hell
Blue
yes.
beer?
that's all, folks.
No. So big game tonight. Nebraska
That's right.
takes on Rutgers.
Everyone's drinking sangrias.
Nebraska takes on Rutgers, which is probably at this point. I mean, every home game is becoming the most important home game of the season because this team just refuses to win on the road. And not only just refuses to win on the road, but refuses to like show up on the road in
Which
general.
is a prerequisite.
Two of the three games that they've played. Now, granted,
They showed up for a half at Iowa.
Michigan State is really good. I don't know if you watched yesterday's game. Shout out Frankie Fiddler, by the way, who had one stellar performance and honestly was the
Frankie.
catalyst to Michigan State
Just go
beating
being
Penn
a
State
dude.
yesterday. Had a lot of big buckets down the stretch. I mean, looked like he got his groove back. We kind of talked about it. He was I believe I don't know if he was starting yesterday, but I know that he was starting the season, and then at one point he was back into being on the rotation. But yesterday, regardless, he was in the finishing lineup and finished that game for him. I mean, had an incredible outing, and Michigan State is rolling right now. They are 15-2. They won yesterday 90-85. Fiddler coming off. I'm looking at the box score right here. Yeah, coming off the bench, 8 of 13, 18.7 rebounds, 2 assists. Bouncing back from not the greatest start to the season for him, but Michigan State wagon right now. So it's hard to deny the fact that, you went on the road to Michigan State, who's been proven to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten at this point. But, I mean, they just absolutely got mollywopped. And then Purdue, they didn't even show up for that game. That was an absolute national embarrassment what happened at Mackey Arena. But they have an opportunity to return tonight to win a big game at home after a terrible road loss, which they've already done this season against Indiana.
8.5-point favorites.
That is crazy. Yeah.
8.5 at home. Rutgers, not good. I mean,
Rutgers is not a good basketball team.
they're 9-8 on the year.
So,
In Nebraska, winner of 20 in a row at home, which ties
would
a school
actually-
record. So going for the outright record with this current stretch.
They're making me nervous all of a sudden.
You got
Why?
my knee-jerk reaction at 8.5. I would actually bet the Huskers there. Okay, so here's why. Rutgers, you know what Rutgers is shooting from three-point percentage this season?
Bad.
28.
Terrible. 32% from three.
Ballpark.
Nebraska's defense is really predicated on where they run this kind of not half zone, half man, but it very much is a fluid sort of defense where there's a ton of communication in which, there's doubles on the blocks and that there's kind of spacing within the perimeter. And
Help rotate and scramble.
Exactly. A lot of scrambling, a lot of rotations, a lot of communication. But in doing that, you give up a lot of threes, and which is why they kind of got gashed by the surgical Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer.
If you've got dudes who are just making threes,
it's over.
like that's what the defense is going to give up.
It's over.
And what happened against
UCLA.
against UCLA, and I'm not coming back to this just because this is where Creighton basketball lives, but think about 41 threes, 43 threes that Creighton took in that game, and the Blue Jays weren't hitting.
Yeah,
that's what Nebraska's defense is trying to do.
So whilst as a team, Rutgers is not very good in that they've had a terrible start to the season after I believe they did start the season ranked. And the reason they start the season ranked is because they have two of the best players in the country, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, who is going to give a ton of fits for Nebraska today on the defensive end. Harper averaging right now 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. He's shooting 50% from the field and 34% from three. Ace Bailey, bigger guy, having a really good season as well. It's just, at this point, the kind of recipe to beating Rutgers is don't let one of these guys have a historical game. Don't let them have one of those games where when they go to the NBA draft and we're talking about their scouting report, they're not showing a bunch of highlights from the Nebraska basketball game. That's the goal for tonight. You win this game and you win it handily. If you're able to, you're never going to shut these guys down. There's no such thing. But Braxton Mee and Berkay Buchtengel are going to have pretty big games in order to shut down
That name just rolls off your
Um,
tongue beautifully.
Berkay Buchtengel.
Bearcay, actually.
Nobody-
Berkay.
Bearcay.
Okay.
Berkay.
Yeah.
My bad.
You're still doing a great job, though.
No one. I've been saying it all year. No one's corrected me. Berkay. Okay, I'm right.
I'll
now.
That's
help
pretty
you.
good. Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
correcting
I mean,
him.
I don't know
But-
how many.
but-
Berkey.
Berkey. Regardless of the fact, though, I think this matchup does favor the Huskers.
Turkey. I thought he's from
I
Saturday.
think without a doubt, this is a matchup that falls into the Huskers' hands perfectly. And I really do think that 8.5, they should cover that pretty easily. And I think that Husker fans, I give Husker fans a lot of credit. I give Creighton fans, I just think fans in Nebraska in
Just
general
people, humans.
are just really smart fans. You never have to explain the stakes of anything to any of these fan bases. They kind of enter the arena understanding why this game is important and why they should care. And I think that a lot
Why
of
we should
Husker
hate
fans are
Rutgers.
walking into PBA knowing that they have to bring the juice, because if they were to lose this game tonight, and we kind of talked about it yesterday, the road to the NCAA tournament becomes exponentially
It
harder
would be sad.
with who they have in front of them, not only just at home, but on the road as well.
Well,
you
yeah,
boys are
because
going to
if-
this game. What time's it at?
I'm not going.
Oh,
Eight- I will not be there.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's why.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's now look at that visceral
8 o'clock.
reaction from
Do you-
Jimmy
do you-
Chavez.
Do you know there are back in the day when I woke up at this time regularly for a morning show?
back in the day? You mean like 6
Like
months
three
ago?
months ago?
Yeah.
It's still
3 or
back
4
in the
months ago.
day.
One of the things I hated the most was a midweek 8 p.m. tip. Because and especially if it was a home game.
Lincoln was the far west of the Big Ten in those days.
Yeah, back in those days.
So they were Big Ten after dark.
So you would have that 8 p.m. tip, and I would be there. I'd get home around midnight,
Oh Christ!
Jeez.
and then go, well, let's get 3 hours of sleep
I
before
know.
this morning show.
Hey.
You talk about Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. Honestly, those two dudes could go off, because what has been talked about with this team just getting to 9-8, and those two guys playing really well, and they'll be lottery picks.
Easily. And not just lottery picks. I mean, Harper will probably be either 2 or 3 behind
I
Flag.
I think I've heard our guy Bigelow say that these guys will be potentially 2 of the top 3 picks.
So that was the expectation heading into the season. I do think that Bailey has suffered a little bit in
No.
regards of looking at mock drafts, because he's playing with another top pick. And KJ over at Illinois.
Yeah,
Yeah,
KJ's played
is
really well.
just having an incredible season, and he could very well end up being the second overall pick in
So-
the draft. But yeah, these are two easily
But
2 lottery picks are going to be playing tonight. 2 of the 3 best players the Huskers will play all season. long.
oh, for sure. Yeah, when you look at who Nebraska's playing, until Nebraska plays Duke in the Sweet 16.
Yes.
And then when you talk about these two guys, though, so many times I've heard people talk about Harper and Bailey in the way that people would talk about Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. And all right,
Sure,
well,
that's a
they-
great comparison.
They haven't done this since Tungsten Armo Duel.
Nice.
Also, they lost by 30.
Yeah.
Old Ross
Yeah.
Hopper.
These guys are playing extremely well.
Yeah.
Are there 3 other competent Scarlet Knights going to be on the
Clearly
floor at
not.
any other time?
Clearly not.
Like that's what it is. You could potentially have Dylan Harper get a triple-double, Ace Bailey a double-double, and Nebraska could win by 20 tonight.
Everybody wins.
Like that's honestly, is that your
Everybody
best case
wins, yeah.
scenario?
Yeah.
Those
Way
two
to go, guys.
Bailey and Harper do something that hasn't been done
Yeah.
since Gehrig and Ruth, as the
They-
Rutgers Scarlet Knights fall 58-54 to the
They
Northwestern
combined
Wildcats.
for 74 points, 27 rebounds, 18 assists,
And
and
scored
lose.
75.
Nebraska wins 103-84.
So
but hey,
Like
everyone
that's
had
a
a good
realistic
night.
possibility.
So
that I
I'm-
don't think that's going to happen.
I'm looking at a mock draft here. Dylan Harper, number 2 to the Pelicans. Ace Bailey,
Is it that low of
number
a draft?
3. There was I saw some clickbait dude who did like the NBA mock draft who had Bailey like falling out of the 10. What a bunch of
That's how you get the clickies.
That's how he got me. Bailey going number 3, and then KJ going number 5 right now. to the
Where's
Utah
Cooper
Jazz.
Flag?
Cooper Flag's 1.
Oh,
Cooper Flag's 1.
I had him going 5.
Who?
That's on
gonna
me.
Be incredible, by the way. That Harper and Bailey very well can end up going 2 and 3, and Rutgers is
Gonna miss the
going to
tournament.
miss the tournament. More than likely at this point, going to miss the tournament. They did pick up a victory in their last game against UCLA. # broken Mick Cronin.
Broken Mick Cronin.
Broken Mick.
Mick
Nice.
Broken.
That's what I
Mick
call him.
Broken.
Broken Mick. But 70.
Very sad.
Very sad. 75-68 victory. They combined to have 38 of the 75
Dude.
Rutgers points. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Now,
So-
you're right, though. Not mathematically eliminated from the tournament.
No, we're going to be pretty damn hard.
They could,
to make.
like, you could get stupid over the next month, but this is the Big Ten.
It's a big game for them.
As we've had
It's
to
a big
explain
game
to
for
Broken Mick, you don't get calls on the road.
them. No, you
And this
don't.
is a home game for Nebraska tonight, where, like I said, they've won 20 in a row. The only Big Ten team with a longer streak is Purdue.
Yeah.
And West Mackey Arena's pretty tough.
The House of Horrors over there at
So,
Mackey Arena.
But Pinnacle Bank Arena has really become that. And it I know that it was a little bit tongue in cheek like last year.
Sure.
Because of the streak going on. It was like you don't just walk into Pinnacle Bank Arena and expect
One
to
simply
lead.
does not just walk into here and get a victory.
Exactly, but it was like that's kind of true with top 5 wins over Purdue and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin this year has put up 100 on Iowa. And Iowa obviously dominated the last 10 minutes,
Yeah.
5 minutes of regulation, 5 minutes of overtime against Nebraska and Iowa City last week. But for the Huskers, you're finally back home. The friendly confines, if you will.
Oh, hey
Yes.
That
now. Hey, look at that.
saved that
Old
one
style.
for this
Look
guy.
at that.
You got to feel like the place will be juiced, and not just because of the sangrias,
Well,
or
that is
because of
juice.
the Fred
Or-
Hoiberg
yeah.
air
It'll
fresheners,
be spritzed.
or as we
Nice.
all run to the team shop to get our coach is better looking than your coach, Fred Hoiberg t-shirts.
It's gonna be a
Do we
long
want to
line.
do a power ranking of Big Ten coaches in terms of looks this year?
I would. You have no idea how fast I could put that list together.
We'll do that during the do that during the
I-
break.
Start thinking. You
We're
got
gonna- yeah,
36
start
schools.
Good. Oh yeah, that's the problem with the top 10 list is you're only halfway through the league.
Yeah.
Man, if you can't make that list,
Regardless, though, no, it'll be Nebraska sports, and I've said this, and it's a testament to how much this state and that school cares about sports in the regards to the fact that, like, if you build it, they will come.
it's true.
Like, if you build it, they will come.
They support everything.
If
I've always said that.
If you play well, people will show up. Okay, plain and simple. If women's basketball is playing well, there's going to be a lot of people who show up for women's basketball. If softball's playing well, which I think they will this year with Jordy Ball coming back from injury, people are going to show up.
Preseason ranked.
People are going to show up for that team. Same thing with basketball. Same thing with baseball. Same thing with football. Same thing with volleyball.
You saw it with
I mean-
softball when they made their run to the Elite Eight because you were
Exactly.
able to be at home in the NCAA tournament. The way it works, I know
Nebraskans
we
like
talk
winning
about the
stuff.
college football playoff
Yeah.
and how far you can have home games. They had an Elite Eight match
Crazy.
at Stanford.
Crazy.
It was like, oh, can we get this one a little bit neutral site?
Mhm.
I understand it though.
Oh,
And-
you
and-
get rewarded.
like I understand it, and you see it with the women's basketball tournament as well, with where there's the home sites, the volleyball,
volleyball as
the
well.
Nebraska volleyball hosting through the regional finals, the Elite Eight. But soccer, like you don't think about Nebraska and think about soccer, but that program won a Big
Got-
Ten
got a
championship a
lot
couple
of-
years ago.
I-
They put a
lot of
couple of
attention.
players into professional contracts, both here and overseas,
Yeah.
and that place was packed. That place was packed.
The Hib was rocking a lot.
And by the way,
days in the week.
being here in Omaha, I love Creighton Soccer Stadium.
It's pretty.
I love watching that when you get to like the state championships. That place gets pumping. But it's not just, oh, do they show up for football, men's basketball, and
They
volleyball?
support winners.
They
support
that's
their
one of the things
school.
I've said. It's people show
As
up
an outsider.
and this
notice
isn't
that.
Sure.
a Nebraska Cornhusker specific take for me, by the way. This is in the state
is
of
the state.
Nebraska. When people show you, a team shows you that they can be successful, they're on a path towards success. everyone wants to be a part
Well,
of that.
so I think also as well is like there are some people who might be, well, that's fair weather. You're just saying they're fair weather fans, to which I will disagree in this regard. Nebraska athletics fans just put so much effort into so many teams that like it's just like there's only so
There's only
much
so
you
much to
can
go around.
give. There's so much to go
Well-
around, and so like you really like there are people who are diehard Nebraska basketball, diehard Nebraska volleyball, diehard Nebraska, no matter what they'll
Yeah.
show up. But then there's the other conglomerate of fans who are like, you know,
But they're
I've got a
watching.
lot of stock in a lot of different places for who I'm
Well,
rooting
yeah.
for. But if you give them a reason to come,
Mhm.
not only will they come, they're going to come with their chest painted, with the foam fingers, screaming, being as loud as they can because of just how much pride they have in that school. And that, by the way, that's just not a Nebraska thing. That's a Creighton thing as well.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something
the
right
state.
now.
Nebraskans like
Next
sports.
Thursday, I'm excited for next Thursday at Baxter Arena
What's next
when
Thursday?
5-0 Omaha takes on 4-0 St. Thomas.
Mm.
In the Summit League. That's going to be a massive, massive matchup. I'm excited to see how many people show up for that as well.
But what it is-
it's just a,
Matt's calling you out. You need to go to the game.
But this
Yeah.
is why I love being here. This is why, like, I went to Chicago, but I came back because it's like this place just cares so much about sports, and I freaking love it.
And that's why you
I
see
freaking love.
that's
this
why
state.
it was great when we were having the conversation yesterday about professional volleyball. There's
Yeah.
2 professional volleyball leagues that are here, and there's different ways to support. For a lot of these, it could be I'm following the scores, I'm
Sure.
watching on TV, I'm listening on the radio. But when things are going really good, it's like I need to be there. I need them to feel my support.
Feel me.
You get canceled for that now. But I like where your head's at.
That was too easy.
You are an athletic supporter.
That was too easy.
That's an old Grease reference.
I bought
Also,
a
they
Summit
can't
League-
fill you up because
By
of
the way,
compliance
I
issues.
I
Yeah.
bought the Big Ten Plus equivalent of the Summit League yesterday in order to
Oh.
watch the Omaha Mavericks play the Denver Pioneers. So never question my loyalty.
Don't forget to write that off.
Oh, can I?
I'm sure you can.
Oh, I'll
Maybe-
talk to
maybe.
yeah, I'll go and
yeah.
talk to people.
Or just get reimbursed.
I have
Just
to
get-
cancel.
yeah,
my,
get reimbursed.
I gotta cancel my
That's how
Big
it
Ten.
works.
My Big Ten Plus subscription is like one of those gym memberships that you just never use, you know, and then but you refuse to
I-
quit it.
I watch all the time.
I don't
would
use
get
it.
rid of it.
I don't.
But-
use it.
but
my
that's-
in-laws love
because
it.
we're always on the
But they're old.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
what I'm
wrestling,
doing.
like wrestling, when they like that's going to be one of the things where it's like, okay, wrestling's taking on Penn State.
300 wins, by the way, for Mark Manning
I mean,
at
what a
Nebraska.
guy. What a
That's what he got to this last week.
Big Ten, man.
Um,
I love Big
But
Ten.
but
wrestling.
that's what it is when you have things. Nebraskans as a whole support in so many different ways because we're supporting whether it's kids at a club event, an AAU, and then high school, and then whatever college you're close to and you want to follow. The support goes so many different ways. But when things get big,
Yes.
an undefeated Summit League game,
We're there.
when like Omaha is having a year
Yeah.
right now
And
to
I
just
got
start the
people
conference.
in my Nebraska UNL group chats who are talking about UNO basketball
You should invite them.
and who are like excited about UNO basketball and the possibility of them making the tournament.
Exactly.
It
So
just-
Want to meet the
it's
radio
almost-
guy?
It's almost like it just means more here.
Yeah. There you go.
It just means a little bit more.
I'll let you handle that one.
You're listening to Gary Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Look later. We'll be back. Big lineup, big day, talking all things Nebraska sports, regular sports. You find it. Matt McMaster, joined by Caleb Henry. Don't go anywhere. Listen to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. I am. Oh, wow, that came out of nowhere. Maybe I should have probably. You know what? Yeah, Jimmy's messing with the volume. Probably I should have let Jimmy hit the stream go off, like let the stream hit the camera.
You're young,
and then,
you're learning.
and then lower. Well, I didn't know that song. I didn't know that song had a intro like that. Regardless, be sure to check out the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. Follow us at 1620 The Zone. And the 1620 The Zone inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally at equitablebank.com. If you want to reach out to me, my email is matt@1620thezone.com. Twitter at Matt McMedia, MattMcmedia. If you want to reach out to Caleb, it's at Caleb Henry.
Caleb with a K.
Caleb with a K on Twitter. I'm a man of my word.
Which word is that?
The word that said I would buy a Keurig
Oh, I thought it was like a certain
for the
word.
office. I
Bird,
bought a
bird.
Keurig. I went to Target yesterday.
Shout out Target.
Shout out Target. I'm a Target. I don't think I can use the word. I think it's part of the
Guys.
7 words that I can't use on the radio, but I'm a Target that. I go to Target maybe every day.
Guys,
I'm probably as bad as my mother and some wives. If there's a husband out there knowing, you probably know. Your wife might
Man,
like
What Matt doesn't know, he could pick up moms at Target. We've
No.
actually
No,
talked
no,
about this on radio shows
No,
I've
I-
done before. Target is a great place. if
Barnes
you're-
and Noble, another good
yeah.
spot.
I pick
Harry
up
Carey
everything
talked
at
about the
Target.
library.
Yeah.
I go into Target looking for eggs. I come back with, a comb,
Different kind of
air conditioner, a
Ovaries.
TV. What are we doing? Can you even say that? Can you even say that in the air?
yeah.
Yes, if you
Okay.
put an F word before, you can't say it. but
Oh,
you-
okay.
it's
But
just
The
Sorry,
only
hard.
F word
Is
we're
there a
worried about
better
is fallopian
store?
tube.
Is there a better store right now than Target?
It's tough. So like where I live
Sure.
is like a block away from that store.
Okay.
My daughter, 4 years old. This is a true story right now.
Yeah.
And my wife has the video. Maybe I'll have her send it and I'll show you in a break. No joke. They were driving, or no, they were going for a walk. They were
Okay.
going for a walk,
Going for a walk.
and they get around the block, and my daughter didn't realize where they were, and she just goes, "Oh my God, it's Target!"
Yes.
And I was like, "What have you done to our daughter?"
Poll question.
It's already going.
Poll question. Is Target the store right now?
The goat.
Yes or no? I mean, it is ridiculous how much I just love going to Target and walking. Do you know that it's a date now? Like
It's always
there-
been a date.
No, but I could go. Guarantee you, I can go
In
on
2004 was a date.
I can go on a dating app. I could probably go on a dating app and be like, "Hey, you want me to take you on a Target date?" And that girl will probably fall for it immediately.
Try it.
I mean,
Well, here,
who's
Hey.
to say I haven't already, Jimmy Shout?
there we go.
first of all,
It's you.
and I know there's different stores that have, like, they've obviously added the grocery section to this,
Yes.
and a lot of places have. Didn't work out for Kmart. Sorry,
No.
R.I.P.
not.
But
Sometimes you just got to stick to your guns.
grocery store dates,
Poll is up
absolute-
at Gary and Matt.
absolutely a thing. Like, that was a thing for us in college because we were all like, all right, who needs to go stock up on ramen and Gatorade?
What's more popular of a date, a Target date or a Cheesecake Factory date?
One is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Which one?
Depending on how
I
deep
don't
you
know. Seriously, which one is a lot cheaper?
Oh, I see what he's getting at.
Because you could go to Target and you could
spend
pick up-
$150.
You can spend $150. You can go to Target and you can spend $20.
You can go to Cheesecake Factory.
What if she
spend
just wants a
$150
pair of socks and a
G-string.
and a key? I wasn't gonna go there, Jimmy. A pair of
Hey.
socks and a keychain.
Here's my issue with the layout at
Same
the one
difference.
closest to us.
Just get her a candle.
Is there are things in a section I need to get for my daughter.
Yeah,
It's like, here's where some of like the kid food or the kid medicine is.
sure.
And then from there to go over to, okay, well, I'm going to go pick up some groceries. I walk by the Lego aisle, guys. That is my kryptonite.
So that was my
That
mother's.
gets me.
That was my mother's strategy. We would go. I know the layout exactly to my Target back at home in Skokie, and she would take us right to the toy aisle, and we would just sit there, play around, and
While
she
she
would
does stuff.
just knock stuff out.
Shout out, Mom.
So
Yeah.
it goes the other way though. So
It's
I
almost
thought
like daycare. Like
Here.
just put us in aisles
you
5 through 9. Okay,
Bullseye, the dog's
have
gonna
fun.
watch you.
10 minutes later, she comes back. She's got a carton full of milk and eggs and
did we not all do
Cheerios
that though growing up? Like
and a chair and a
like-
mirror.
like we would when my parents, because we lived 45 minutes away from the nearest Walmart, so that's how you would
I
go
know how
out and it's
this
like,
goes.
hey, we're driving to Grand Island.
45
parents-
minutes? Did you say 45 minutes?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Good Lord.
And my wife, same thing.
I can't relate.
We are off the interstate back in Old Loop
Can't
City.
relate.
So you would go and the family's getting groceries. I just said, hey, I'm going to electronics, and I would just go play video
Yeah.
games there the whole time.
All right.
But there's a strategy at these stores. And for me and my wife, and when we were in Kearney and we were dating, I know where that section is for women. And guess what? It's pretty quick. And guess what? I'm taking in Kearney, it was a hard left. In Lincoln, it's a hard right.
Ha.
Sorry, wife, we are not going to this area
No.
because that's going to add an hour and a half to our trip right
So-
now.
Oh wow.
So
You
Another-
have to touch everything, and oh, maybe I want to wear this, and I'm just like,
I
no, you-
sniff all the candles.
I'm like, you know,
Just sticking your nose in a bunch of wax.
Hell
Jimmy.
yes. Build up that immune system.
nice.
I got COVID once.
I was about to say, was that your
Nice.
COVID vaccine? Just
Nice.
going
I
to
got
Target and
once.
just rubbing your
I
nose?
got
and all the
once at a
candles?
bowl game. It was
See,
worth every
there was a
bit.
bit of a tango.
That's not
though.
herd immunity. That's herd supremacy.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a tango though with the mom putting us in the toy aisle because
Yeah,
she
but your
knew-
mom's awesome.
She knew. Thank you. She knew though
Yeah, I'm a fan already.
that if
Mhm.
you've never met her, Jimmy,
I know
um,
that. I'm
Mama
already a fan.
McMaster's a good one.
good one. That was a little
She
weird.
dumps you in the toys at Target.
So
She's
she
cool.
but here's the thing: she knew she had to come back at a certain amount of time, and I think some parents can relate to this. Where if she didn't come back quick enough, Christopher, my brother, and I would then venture out of the Lego toy aisle and into the electronic aisle, and that was always a problem because then we would be like, "Well, we want Lego Indiana Jones, the video game, or we want this controller, or we want this," and it was almost as if, I mean, we were spoiled rotten brats.
Older or
I
younger
mean, it was
brother?
going to ruin the day. Older brother.
Okay.
It was going to ruin the day if we found a video game that we couldn't walk away with.
Spoiled Northwestern fans.
It's true.
Come
I
on.
wasn't going to go there.
I didn't go to Northwestern.
I said fans.
Yeah, fair enough. Fans, yeah, probably. I mean, supporter.
You are an old soul, though. I
Supporter.
like this
Northwestern
conversation. I
supporter.
like.
Hey,
I like
getting
where
go
we're
Cats.
getting a beautiful
Hey,
new stadium.
Being,
Look at you.
Being a Northwestern supporter never hurt anybody. I am the least threatening. Like, if I came from Ohio State and I was an Ohio State supporter, I don't think I'd be allowed on the air.
I
I
don't
think
think
me
you'd
be
being
there,
a supporter
no,
of
yeah.
Northwestern athletics, everyone's like, "Oh, that's
Aw.
You're too associated.
Oh,
Yeah, it is
little
adorable.
Northwestern.
It's adorable
Oh,
until
little-
you are
little
lumped in
kitty
with Wilbon.
Wildcats. No, I'm not. No.
Until you get lumped in with
See,
Wilbon.
that's the thing, though. I'm not the pretentious. Oh, look at my degree. Oh my God, I'm the smartest guy in the room. I just like Bryant McIntosh and Philip Lindsay and Chase Audige and Boo Booey and
You like
Brooks Barnheiser,
the dudes who got straight B's.
Dom and Nick
That-
Martinelli.
Hey,
it's like
yeah,
where we're at.
yeah.
Jimmy and I are like, hell yeah,
Vic Law,
C's
straight
bring
B's.
degrees.
Yeah.
You remember
And
anyone-
he's like,
Poll question: Does
"The-
anyone
these
remember?
dummies who got B's.
Got one B.
Poll question, Jimmy. Does anyone remember Vic Law? It's a Northwestern small forward. He was so good.
I remember
So
Vance
awesome.
Law.
He was so awesome. On
Played for the Cubs.
2016 NCAA team. Okay, so I bought a Keurig. How much do you think a Keurig? So I bought.
Ooh, I used to watch
Jimmy,
Price is
actually,
Right.
Can you get up for a second and actually pass over the Keurig? Can you bring the
It-
Keurig to me?
Yeah,
I
it
don't have an erection.
it depends on. Okay,
Jeez.
depends on like the Keurig. Okay, you got a K Mini
So
Go.
So I got a K Mini Go. Can you pass it over to? Yeah, put it on the stream.
camera.
Put it on the camera. That is our Keurig. That is what was purchased yesterday at the Target on 70th and Dodge. Okay. It has 3 different cup sizes. If you want a 6-ounce cup of coffee, a
High school.
12-ounce cup of coffee, or an 8-ounce cup of coffee, or I'll actually go and grab it.
It's in. So here's because when
He is
we had our
proud.
daughter, when we had our daughter, one of the things was, and my wife loved coffee, and she was going to be at home for the next like 2 months. is you
I
almost
broke
dropped it.
I almost
Jeez.
dropped it. Jeez. This thing
what-
almost got broken before I got open.
the
Nobody has to know. You could
the
have
what
taken
was
it
it?
back.
You and I guess this became a thing. It was like you gave a birth gift or something, and so I got her a nice Keurig.
Yeah.
Like-
this is a K Mini Go.
Like
How much do you think this sucker costs?
By the way, the one I got laughs at how teeny tiny yours is.
no, for sure.
I got
For
the
sure.
industrial
For sure.
friggin'
I'm
But
not
it's
size
eight-
shaming
It's 8
here.
ounces, 10 ounces, or 12 ounces. It fits anywhere. It's only 5 inches. It's a
It's too easy.
removable.
Nope, can't take them all. I'm only allotted so many of these a show, so you have to pick and choose your battles.
Nobody
You
took the bait.
stay on that
Wow.
island.
Nobody took the bait.
No,
Okay.
no, thank you. I
Dang it.
like being invited back up here.
Removable multi-cup
I
water.
just
so
met
you
you. I
can
don't
put
know.
42 ounces of water in your 5-inch fit anywhere Keurig. It's a strong brew. It's fast and fresh. Now, I do have a
Manning.
question for you guys. So how much do you think this costs?
Ooh, you can't cheat.
I'm not cheating.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Huh, you scared me.
no,
I'll play
I
the
got
game.
told that I was smart for going to Grand Island instead of Kearney growing up.
How much do you think? How much do you think this sucker costs?
That was
This
like
Keurig?
that was like $70.
I'll
was
go
set-
$1.
It was $100.
Are you kidding me?
But
They ripped you off. Did you get?
Wait! I'm a Target Rewards member, and for Target Rewards
It's
members,
5% off.
you get 30% off.
Wait,
so this
what?
was $70.
What's a Target Rewards member?
I'm a part of the Circle Club. You're not a part of the Target Circle
I'm
Club.
a part of the Circle
Under-
Club.
yeah.
Surprised you're not.
You're
either.
not
Yeah,
in the
Tar-
Circle,
I'm in the
Jimmy. You're
circle.
not in the Circle.
Yeah,
Trust me, I'm in the
yeah, but
circle.
no
Caleb,
one has
you're not
ever.
in the
I have the
no
debt
one has
to
ever
prove it.
called it the Target Rewards Club.
It's the Rewards
It's
Club.
Target Circle.
It's your part of the
It used to
club.
be you had the red card
Are
and
you
you
in
got
the Circle?
5% off.
Are you in the Circle?
But
I'm in the
Joseph
Circle.
McCarthy ruined the whole
So-
red card thing.
Anyone, by the way, this
History.
is a shout out to the Target on 70th and Dodge and anyone in the
Jeez.
area. If you're trying to buy a Keurig from January 12th, which happened 4 days ago, to January
People
18th, you
forget.
can buy a Keurig Mini to go for $70.
Only
so
at that
wait,
Target.
price.
so wait. So what I said was correct.
It was $70,
Yes.
but it's worth $100. There's a difference.
Oh,
It's
I said, how much do you think this was worth? The court, and you had the court reporter read back.
no, I mean, it's worth whatever someone will pay for it. If Jimmy will give you
I
$200,
paid- well, here's
suddenly
the
it's
thing.
worth
Here's the
$200.
thing. I was going to pay $100 for
I'll
it
give you
anyway
$4.
because I've learned very quickly that your word goes a very, very long way at this radio station. And I proclaimed very quickly, as soon as I got onto the station, that I would buy this station a Keurig because we're making coffee here at 1620 The Zone like we're back in 1892. Okay? I mean,
1620 the zone, the
1892.
coffee.
the Jerry,
Coming up
the-
later, Connor and Josh churn butter and milk cows.
the jerry rigging that had to
John and
occur
Josh hunt for dinner.
Gary Sharp in order for
You
me
have no
to
idea
have
how
a cup
quickly
of
I'm
coffee.
tuning into that, though. like when you
Just
say
John-
that tongue
just-
in cheek.
John and Josh can't find dinner, so they eat Nick.
Jack
Today.
Mitchell filling in this afternoon. Guess what? He travels outside city limits for the first time.
It's glorious, the sun.
I would love to get John. I would watch John Bishop try and
Drink
churn
coffee?
butter. No,
Oh,
churn
churn
butter.
butter.
Does he? John strikes me as a non-coffee drinker. Is he a non-coffee drinker?
I have no
Do-
idea.
Do we know that? Because he's already.
never
got a
been with him in
lot
the
of
morning.
energy.
Yeah, he does an afternoon show.
Peterson was. So I sent out. By the way, we'll get to this in the crossover. So stick around until 10 o'clock. But I'm going to. I sent out
Please.
a company-wide email,
TSL.
basically. Company-wide
He
email
did.
being like, "Hey, I got the Keurig," and only one man responded to that, and that was Josh Peterson. So shout out Josh.
What he's
Yeah,
you'll
he
get to that
said-
later.
He
I won't-
emailed the praying hands emoji. He's like, "Thank God." So here we go.
I bet
Now,
it's just talking about Notre Dame.
here is the scam though about the Keurig.
Go Irish.
Okay, so this thing is nice. All right, this
Yeah.
thing makes
It is
a good
It is.
cup of coffee.
Yeah,
All
well-
right,
well done,
We're
Matt.
gonna put it somewhere
good
in the
cup of
office.
Joe.
Whenever anybody needs a cup of coffee,
Anything.
they're going to be able to do it very quickly and very efficiently. You need to bring your own mug, obviously.
Mug Club.
Mug Club canceled in Lincoln. What a travesty.
So did you
Here's-
bring like 1,000,000 K cups to go with that
So,
too?
if you look over there, I have a Cafe Bustelo.
If you on the radio look from the left to the right side of your dial,
Yes. I have a Cafe Bustelo K-Cups. How much do you think those Cafe Bustelos cost? It's 45 K-Cups. How much do you think that box of coffee cost me?
minimum
with
$20.
inflation,
It was
$247.
$28.
Yeah, minimum.
What
So-
a scam.
So here's how I know that, because when I lived in Kearney, and this was pre even knowing my wife at the time, I had a Keurig there. To go get those K cups, and I loved the hot chocolate, the Swiss Miss.
Oh,
Black Friday. back when Black Friday was Black
Was it?
Fridaying all over the
and
place.
America was America.
Nebraska played Colorado.
You hit 3 a.m. at the mall. Guess what?
We're getting
Those K cups, like that box you have right there, $5, my friend.
Oh.
But do you know
that
how
might get me out of bed.
my
No.
cupboards, top to bottom, Swiss Miss.
I think we're gonna have
top
to.
to bottom. It is mid-July, and I'm like, I am still going through these.
So here's the question: Matt at 1620 the zone. Matt at 1620thezone.com and the Equitable Bank inbox. We take banking personally. Am I wrong to be
No.
like?
Yes.
I'm being
All right, we're
positive.
gonna go to break. No, I'm kidding. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in thinking that hey, I shouldn't be expected to buy these K cups every time we run out? Like there should
the
be
deal was you bought the Keurig.
I bought
After
the
that,
Keurig.
it's on. I never once thought, okay, now
Now,
Matt, are you going to
So
buy
you
us
don't
coffee?
have to. So you don't have to use
But is
K
it
cups.
was the responsibility going to fall on me most?
Oh,
'cause
like
I-
here.
Here.
Oh, I thought
Oh,
you were
yeah,
talking
no,
in
no.
general.
We
no. Amongst like, what are we going to do about the K
No.
cups? Because
No, no,
I'm
no.
not because it's only 45 cups of coffee. If there's three, if we're all having about 4 cups of coffee a day, that's only going to last us about 11 days.
I don't think
No,
everybody
okay?
drinks
Sans
coffee. at
one
the zone.
coffee.
And you bring your own K cups.
Yeah.
That's what
So
it is.
everyone has their own individual responsibility of
Yes.
bringing their
Yeah.
own K cups.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, unless somebody wants to buy for the group once in a while, that's
well,
fine
that's
too.
what I did.
But,
I
right.
went, I went
You-
the extra mile.
you
I
were
bought the
never-
Cafe Bustelo.
You were never expected to provide coffee for everyone.
There you
And
go.
I don't know how you could afford that.
You
got,
led
you
the
got
horse to water. You can't
you
make
got
them drink.
a bed with a headboard.
Oh my god. Dude, the bank account. I got a 60-inch TV yesterday.
I don't know that that's necessary.
You got a
They are
60-inch
cheap
TV.
now, though.
No,
What was
cheap.
that?
I went to Costco.
450.
270.
I was going to say 3. Yeah.
I went to so,
It's been a hot minute since
so
I bought a TV.
my roommate's dad has a Costco card. So he
Nice.
went and he picked up the TVs, and then I just Venmoed what I owed, and now I own a 60-inch TV. I told my
and
dad.
your friend's dad lost his Costco card.
Get a slice of pizza too.
So
Hot dog.
my dad, though, I don't know if my dad is jealous of me or proud of me because my dad
Can
is
be
like,
both.
my dad's one of those dudes where it's like, you measure a man's success by how big their TV is.
Yeah, Papa McMaster, another good dude.
Yeah. He loves.
Sounds like it.
He's like, our TV broke. Okay. And he got so excited because he was like, yes, I get,
New
to buy,
one.
new
I
one.
get to buy a new one. I get to
102
get
inches.
another TV that's bigger than this one.
Scott
And now
Hansen's
I
gonna be
texted him,
big.
and I got a 60-inch TV. And I think part of him is like, heck yeah, like my son, like
He's
he
living.
gets it. Like he got a 60-inch TV. And I think another part of him is like, that spoiled son of a gun, like 22 years old, already buying a 60
You can't
inch.
apologize for your
To-
age. You just have to work with what you're
Give
given.
the setup we got.
Tell me this though: is it
It's
on
Fire
like a
TV.
stand,
No, it's not out
or
of the
did you
box
mount
yet.
it on the wall?
So we were going to mount it,
Ugh.
but we have metal studs.
Yeah.
And and I've been told that's a pain in the ass when you have a metal studs
That's
when
what Tim
trying to
Taylor
mount a
said.
TV
Mhm,
into
mhm,
it.
mhm.
And it's like, it just, you can cause a whole lot of problems when trying to mount that big of a thing into, now there are like ways around it,
Right.
But you already assembled a bed. You got to quit while you're
I
ahead.
think what we're going to do is do shelves. And then
Okay.
we're going to like install shelves, and then we're going to put the TVs, because my roommate got a TV and then I got a TV. So then we're going to put the TVs on the shelves.
They're going to have the megaplex going on in there.
And then we're going to have 2 TVs on the wall. And then we're going to have kind of a double-decker couch situation.
Okay.
Ball on one TV, the hub on
And
the
then
other.
I looked into, how much do you think bubble hockey cost? Like to get a bubble hockey machine.
$249.
What's bubble hockey?
Do you don't know what bubble hockey is?
You talking
Is
about
it-
air hockey?
Yeah,
I
no.
think it's like in the
It's
Karate
like
Kid where
foosball,
they,
but with hockey.
when they're on the date and they have the thing and the hockey.
This thing.
And she's playing the Russians.
Oh,
$5,000 for a bubble hockey table.
Damn it.
well, yeah, because those only exist inside of
The 80s?
like an arcade, man. What are you,
I
what are you
thought
talking
it would
about?
be.
How can I get one of these in my home? How much does it cost? Well, duh.
I want to turn my apartment into like a bar and grill. I want like a high top table. I want like bar stools.
You wanna go to
We got
Applebee's?
2
Just right here.
TVs. No, we got an Applebee's. Dude, we have the triple dippers. You ever have a triple dipper before?
You
No, it's your fault. See, you know what? The
Don't look at
5
me.
inches,
Don't
it's
look-
nice because it's 5 inches and it fits anywhere. That was a setup.
I'm
The
not
triple
responsible
dipper is
for
your
your
dirty mind.
Okay,
your
getting away from that,
inadequacies.
nope, I
I'm
walked-
not. That's not my
I
fault.
walked away from it. But no, if you do turn your, is it a house or
It's
just
an apartment.
It's an
It's a
apartment.
two-bed,
You turn your
two-bath.
apartment
Bachelor
into
pad.
that. It's like, hey, who wants 2 for $20? Triple D's on TV right now.
Oh,
You guys want to watch some Guy Fieri?
no, we'd have sports. I want to get a ribbon board. Too.
You have 2 TVs.
I
How
want a
will
ribbon
you
board.
not have Food Network just running on
I
repeat?
want a ribbon board. I want a ribbon board that has the ESPN.
It's
ticker.
diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Does anyone, if
On
anyone
repeat.
wants to sponsor my ribbon board, we can put some sponsors on my.
I'm with
ribbon
Caleb
board.
here. I want to watch food.
Sometimes guys grocery
What is
games.
it? Look, it's an
love guys'
apartment.
grocery
It's not a massive gym where they got nothing else to put on the TV, so they put a bunch.
You
of,
said
like,
you were turning this into
SEC
a
Network,
bar.
Big
Yeah.
12.
And now
Do you
you
know-
draw the line
There
at
was-
gym.
there was-
Just
a
2
bar-
weeks ago, I went to a bar in Lincoln and they had Seinfeld on.
Oh, I was
so
I was
I'm
about to
fairly
say,
certain you
I
can
went to.
turn
I think we
something
went to the same bar because I went to a bar in Lincoln and they had South Park on, and that
Boiler?
was awesome. No,
Okay.
no,
Shout
Ox.
out Boiler.
I went to Ox.
on. Okay.
Love Ox.
Never even heard of that.
Occidental.
Nope.
It's a little back room. Great bar. They play South Park on TV, and they like turn up the volume and everything like that.
It's no Seinfeld.
Petticoat Junction.
Poll question: South Park or Seinfeld? Poll question.
So far on
Poll
your
question.
your question's doing well. Is there a better store than Target? 71% say yes.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
I need to know.
Who? What is the better store?
Oh.
What is the better store?
We
than
have
Target?
some suggestions.
Who dare?
Costco, Shields.
Okay, Shields is a.
And then some people like those who vote yes. What is it exactly? If you're voting yes, you gotta
You
give
gotta
something like
tell us.
Here-
You gotta
here's
tell us
here's
what
the
is
next.
better than
Here's the
Target.
next evolution. If Target puts in a Ferris wheel, it's over, guys.
It's done. They put in a bowling alley.
It's.
Oh my god,
dude!
Can you
lo-
imagine
that
the
mi-
sales if Target put in a gun section?
that mini bowling for $1. I go there with my daughter.
Bob
we
asked,
just walk
is
up.
this
I
the
just
Connor Happer show? They do multiple polls. We have one.
Can you imagine if we
poll
if you-
question. Are you listening to the Connor Happer show? And make sure it ends at 10
No,
a.m.
no. Are you listening to the Connor Happer show? No and no. Those are the only two answers.
Missing out.
Can you imagine? If
I
you,
am, by the
you
way.
went in. You went to Target and you were walking in for a T-shirt and a loofah, and you walked out with a 12-gauge shotgun.
That sounds like shopping at Walmart, to be
sounds-
honest.
Is that a Nebraska
Sounds
joke?
like shopping at Shields.
Like, what are you talking about? That's just
I don't
everyday
even know
Walmart.
a gun, let alone many that would
I'm
necessitate
just
an
telling you right
entire
now,
rack.
if Target added a gun section, they'd own the world. At least they'd own Nebraska.
Shield. I'll give them this for those suggestions that are on there. Shields and Costco are a couple very solid contenders
Hmm.
with what Target offers.
What would you rent? What? See, I'm not the biggest Costco guy, just because I don't.
You're young. You-
Target's
you
got a
will.
Starbucks in it too.
I just think with the whole Costco thing is
Yes.
I just don't go through that amount of product as
Yet.
an individual human.
Again, when you have a family, young
Yeah,
man.
no, exactly. Which is why I
when
get
there are
why
little
people would rank it-
McMasters running around
no.
our great state.
How much money you spend on things that you don't care about
Yes,
goes up a lot.
yes. I know.
Do we really need $40 worth of Swedish fish?
Do I need to own
Jeez.
every character on Spidey and his amazing friends? No.
No,
I
not
don't-
really.
How
I
many
don't.
friends does
Actually,
the damn
maybe
guy
you do.
have?
How
Maybe
many
you do.
of the dolls from Monster High do I need?
You know, I was talking. To
Well, we've
someone-
got Toralei.
I
We've
was-
got Twyla. We've got Venus.
I was talking to someone about.
Do we need the others?
bringing up Spider-Man? I was having a great convo about Tom Holland and Zendaya. So they're going to get I
Because
think
they're getting married,
they're getting married.
engaged. They're
and,
engaged right
and
now.
the person I was talking to was, well, he is shorter than her. Okay,
He's shorter than most people.
like it made. I'm sorry,
But
does
he's
being
rich, so it doesn't matter.
Spider-Man, does being Spider-Man not just disqualify how tall you are? Like, what does a man got to do to get over the fact that he might not be the tallest? You can't really talk on this because you're 6'3".
A couple
But man,
ideas.
it's tough out here. It's tough out here being 5'10", 5'11". I mean, it's tough out there being 5'7", 5'8".
Nickname is Knee. And you
I mean,
ask why.
what else? What else does Tom Holland have to do in order to get over the fact that he might be, shorter than his soon-to-be wife? Isn't it a little ridiculous? He's Spider-Man.
It's tough. Yeah, it's
He's
'Cause you're looking
Spider-Man,
at-
and
well-
people are still like, "Well, he's not tall enough." Are you kidding me? Are you an idiot?
Yeah, but he's also how old is he right now? Is he late 20s? He's like
got to be close.
26,
He's
27,
close to 30.
and he's still playing a high school kid.
No, he's done. No, he's out of high school. He's in
Yeah.
college
Oh yeah,
now.
because they didn't get into MIT together.
No.
Spoilers.
So now he's 28, technically playing. He could. I mean, you
A
could,
freshman in college.
Now he goes to Texas Tech.
You could technically like speed up. He probably is playing like a 28-year-old playing a 24-year-old.
Yeah, but MJ is now in Boston
Why are we breaking down the MCU Spider-Man?
because that's where Zendaya is.
This is
In
where you went.
universe, that's where Zendaya
Conversation.
is.
Zendaya.
Zendaya?
Is it? How do we do that?
I'm probably
I don't
doing
know.
Poll
it.
question.
You-
Poll
you-
question.
no.
Zendaya
Oh
or
my
Zendaya?
God.
I'm actually thinking you're talking about former NFL kicker Luis Zendejas.
Alrighty. Well,
Before your time.
on that note, we got a lot to get to. Hey, the North
He
is taking
kicked with
over.
a wooden leg.
The North is taking
And he
over,
did back then.
and this isn't a
In an eye
Game
patch.
of Thrones
Wait, that was a
segue.
pirate.
It's not a Game of Thrones segue that the North is taking over.
House of the
It's-
Dragon?
It's a college football segue that the North is rising, and that now
It's not
for
a
the second
politics
straight
joke.
year, we're going to have two teams from the North in the college football playoff.
Let's go.
We'll talk about the expectations, the stakes, the meaning of that, and maybe who's next. Who are you putting your money on to be the next North team to make the college football national championship? That's all coming up next year on 1620. You're listening to Gary and Matt. Keeping it rolling here on a Thursday morning. You're listening to Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. Matt McMaster joined by Caleb Henry today. My
Hello.
partner, Gary Sharp, will be back in the office tomorrow after the Omaha Mavericks pick up a massive win on the road against the Denver Pioneers, can move to 5-0 in the Summit League. We'll hear all of Gary's thoughts tomorrow on just what a historic start to the season, the Summit League season it's been for the Mavericks. And just what an incredible job Coach Crutchfield is doing there. Baxter Arena, I got to think that it's going to be pretty poppin' next Thursday when they take on the also currently undefeated St. Thomas in home game, which will do a lot to...
Are they the Tommies?
They are.
Nice.
Tommy, St. Thomas Tommies? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they really thought long and hard about that mascot.
All righty. College football playoff. I mean, that's...
Almost like the high school in central Nebraska, Centura. They're the Centurions.
So I was the queen of all. Listen to this. We are the queen of all Saints.
Saints.
Yeah. At my elementary school, we were the Saints. We were the Notre Dame Dons. That was a different thing. But moving on here.
Don Knotts very popular.
Can I say something that, like, look, I understand why they do it, but it still is a little annoying. So college football is a Saturday tradition. Okay? We play college footballs on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays in the fall are synonymous with college football. Okay? It is the day that really everybody looks forward to, right? There are a lot of people in this country who are just waiting for Saturday to come so they can watch college football, so they can watch their team, so they can watch all the big games of the day. And I understand, I understand the logistics of it, but I still think it kind of sucks that a game that is so rooted in a day doesn't play their national championship on that day.
You're preaching to the choir.
Isn't it a little bothersome?
I don't like
Or
these weeknight games.
The majority of the playoffs.
Yeah. They got to play them on Thursdays and Fridays. Like, I get it. The NFL, during their playoffs, they got the Saturdays. And it is suicide to try and compete with the NFL. Nobody competes with the NFL, okay? No one's going head-to-head with them. No one's putting their best games against them, and no one should. It's an absolutely terrible decision that us, the fans, would probably be disappointed about, because now you have to decide, do I want to watch this or do I want to watch this, where you kind of can get the best of both worlds, right? But still, it irks me a little. It irks me. It just bothers me. It just kind of pricks my strings in the wrong way.
Irking has happened.
That the sport of Saturday, the national championships, played on a Monday. Regardless of it, am I not going to watch the game because of it? No.
But
just
I'll
irks.
be pouting and
just
bitching while I do it.
No, yeah, like I understand when you be in here. Here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. And for so much of the college football playoff to be not played on Saturdays or even Fridays leading up to it.
Yeah.
Like you can take those 2 days. It's because you have this mishmash of what is traditional college football, the bowl games, and what do you want college football to be going forward? Part of that is the playoff, having a tournament to determine your champion. Well, when you do that, your tournament now is played on the same day as all of these bowl games. Well, when have these bowl games been? Well, you got to have it on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the same day of the week every year. And your bowl games, which I love, by the way, this part I love as a fan. I will turn on the TV on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. and two teams I care nothing about that went 6-6 in the regular season are duking it out.
Hell yes.
In a, I'll say generously, half full stadium.
Friends and family attendance, but we're all about it.
It's borderline COVID attendance.
Mhm.
Borderline. But I love it as a fan. I love getting to turn that on and watch that.
I love the holiday programming.
But when you separate out the portion of it that is the playoff, you need to dictate those a little bit better on the days of the week. So fill in all the other gaps with those
We're
bowl
happy
games.
for them.
But I need those tournaments with that tournament to determine your champion on a better schedule.
You want kids to be able to watch this. This is why we got into sports when we were younger.
Dislike I don't dislike the Friday games. I think the Friday games make sense.
Well, and that's
the
what I'm
Thursday
saying.
Games just get weird.
Like,
Just playing them on a Thursday.
When
it's so random.
Well, because when you're doing the playoff in this way, and you want to maximize how many people are watching each game, And if you have at any point, and right now the way it's set up is you have one round where you have 4 games that need to be played that week.
Yeah.
And you don't have enough windows to maximize that because you're not doing an after dark game.
Yeah.
You're not doing a 9 p.m. Central start for one of your football games. So you're going to have to split it up over 2 days. And if there is expansion, you're definitely going to have it over 2 days.
Play some noon games.
So I get
the NFL doesn't.
I get Friday and Saturday for the playoff. You don't need to do a Wednesday, Thursday,
no.
and then come all the way
yeah.
back around to a Monday.
My thing is like, would you care if it was a Friday game? If
I-
they did it on as opposed to January 20th,
You're
go,
at-
"Hey, we're going to do January 25th. Teams are going to get extended period of rest. It's what they do for the Super Bowl. There's 2 weeks in between the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship games and the Super Bowl. We'll just do it the same way. We'll put it on a Friday. That way, everybody can get together. They have the weekend to look forward to. You can get at a bar. You can have a couple drinks.
Drink
you can
some
have a good time,
sangrias.
and then you get to watch college football national championship game. But
I wouldn't care because Friday, when you're outside of the regular season, nobody seems to care about that as much with the Fridays are for high school football. Once you're past November for that, like you get to Thanksgiving and you get to Black Friday, once you get past that, I don't really have that much of an offense
Right.
to a game
Neither do I.
to making your 2 days for your playoff Friday and Saturday.
Urkel's not
So-
on anymore. There's no more TGIF.
there are 2 things that are really similar about these. There are a couple things that are very similar about these teams. Okay. First and foremost, the defenses. I mean, both these defenses this season, and especially in these playoffs, have been incredible, fast, impactful, really well coached, flying all over the place, has been the catalyst for both teams in this run. Another similar thing, the running backs. Jeremiah Love, especially, not so much in the playoffs because he's been dealing with a knee injury, but just throughout this entire season, he's been incredible. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, you don't really have to say much about those. Those 2 are superstars for the Ohio State Buckeyes in that backfield. And then on top of that, it's just 2 really good coaches. There's 2 coaches who've come together, who've really rallied the teams, who've set a culture, who've gotten the talent they need to have gotten in order to get to this point. And so Notre Dame and Ohio State are very similar because they come from similar parts of the country. They recruit similar parts of the country. I mean, South Bend to Columbus, it's not like it's a stone's throw away, but it's not too far
a couple
away.
hours.
It's a couple hours away from each other. They're bordering states, Indiana and Ohio State. And I think that when NIL, it's really hard. It'll be interesting when we start talking about in a decade, when we start talking about the dawn of the NIL era and how this all came to be in the transfer portal, when we really put a stamp date of like, this is when it started. Because it feels like it's starting all over again every season because every season is changing so drastically.
There's something
And
new
there's
to adjust to.
New to adjust to. And so it seems like we're always in a new era every single year because no one can get their hands on the wheel and really drive this thing in a manner in which it'll be efficient for everyone to do. But whenever you want to say the NIL and the transfer portal era started, there was this idea that because it's now legal to pay players, that the gap between the SEC and the Big Ten, if you thought there was one, or if you thought it was a big one, if we're looking in terms of nationally and geographically where the national champions in the 2010s were coming from, they were mainly from that southern area. There was this idea of, well, now that you can legally pay players, that gap would close and that you would see more national champions from different parts of the country. I would go as far to say is that when the NIL and the transfer portal era started, it might have been a hot take to been like, hey, the North is coming. These Northern teams, now that it's over the table,
Big
now that
Civil
they
War
can't,
reaction.
now that they,
The North will rise again.
now that they,
951-1620.
now that they can legally give money and it's not just under the table SEC stuff, that Northern teams are going to have a better chance and have a more consistent chance of getting to the college football playoff and the national championship. That is happening. Last year it was Michigan and Washington. This year it's Notre Dame and Ohio State. You got to start to think that Oregon, is a West team, but they are northern part of the country. You think that they're coming. Who's next? Who's next? Who do you think are the next couple of teams you think are northern teams that could really make it, that could get to the national championship? And in saying that, looking at those other teams, what is Nebraska going to have to do in similarity to those teams to get there? Because no Nebraska's in a weird situation right now. This program was in the mud. Okay, it was in the mud during the Scott Frost era. And this Matt Rule era hasn't been about winning a national championship. The Matt Rule era so far has been about getting it out of the mud and then getting to a point where you win the national championship, where you can compete for national championships, because that's the goal. If you're not playing for a national championship, then what are you doing, right? If you're not competing every year to be the absolute best, what are you doing? Okay, and Nebraska right now, they're not competing as much as you would want them to compete to win a national championship, because they have a lot of other things they got to get through before they get to that phase of, okay, here we go. We're going at it. They got to build a program. They got to build a culture. They have to build a base. They have to build a foundation. But who are the next couple of teams? And what does Nebraska have to do to get to that point, to be in the line? Because I don't think they're in line right now to be. I think when you think, what are the next couple of northern teams to make a national championship, I don't think Nebraska comes up as quickly as you would think they should, or quickly as you think you'd want them to be.
Well,
in that combo.
I think with Nebraska, like what are the expectations? Now you've made a bowl game.
Yes.
So I know for a lot of places and for a lot of years here at Nebraska, it was national championship or bust. Like that's just what the expectation was. That's what you have with Nebraska volleyball right now. You know, like that's just what the expectation was. When you're looking at the program, just got to a bowl game for the first time in several years. Now what's that next step? Okay, be ranked at the end of the year. To me, to me, this is where it is, because I'm looking at steps and building blocks, and could that jump go even more? And all of a sudden, Nebraska is looking at potentially winning the Big Ten next year or the year after. Cool, weird things happen. I get that. We saw what happened with Indiana and Cignetti bringing everyone in. Like weird things can happen, and your schedule can play out in such a way that it is very fortuitous for you. I don't think that's necessarily Nebraska's trajectory. I think when you're looking at Nebraska, honestly, Nebraska's best chance, number one, to get into the playoff, when you look at the 12 playoff teams, their path looks so much more similar to Ohio State's than anyone else's.
Sure.
Where you beat a really good team in conference, Penn State, you lose to a really good team, and you lose a game that you probably shouldn't have. But at that point, you're 10-2 in the Big Ten, and you didn't go lose in the Big Ten championship game. I don't foresee Nebraska making the Big Ten championship, but if they do, okay, that path looks like Penn State's. I don't see them winning the Big Ten, but if they do, that path is like Oregon's. I don't see I don't see Nebraska's path ever looking like Indiana's, because Nebraska will always have on this schedule multiple name teams of Michigan, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. You're going to get the lot of them because you are Nebraska. Now, when you're talking about the next northern team to make the championship, it's got to be Oregon, right?
Got to be Oregon.
It's got to be Oregon.
Got to be Oregon.
Because they're going to reload. Who knows? They could have Quinn Ewers at quarterback next year.
It's funny to think about, though, that I think that in years past, like Oregon and Penn State, are probably your two teams for sure that you're looking at. Okay, those are probably the next two. The third team, though, that's an interesting conversation in terms like who's up next, because I think without a doubt in the history of how the 2010s have gone and maybe the very, very beginning of the 2020s, you would have been like, well, Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin is
they're in a different place right now.
They're in a different place right now. They're reeling right now. And so I'll say this. So you talk about Ohio State. I'll talk about a different team. I think Nebraska and Matt Rule need to be looking at Illinois football. And I think that people are going to I don't know. I heard someone almost rolled over their car yesterday when I said something on the radio. I hope that didn't happen there when I said Nebraska football should want to be like Illinois football. But look at what Illinois football did this year. There weren't a ton of expectations for them heading into this season, right? But they had a returning starting quarterback in Luke Altmaier. Mm-hmm. They had a really good running game with Josh McCray. They had some very talented wide receivers in Pat Bryant and Williams. Like, they had some building blocks on the defensive end, especially on the D line. Like, they had some really positive pieces. Was the expectation that Illinois was going to go 9-3 this year? No, it was not. But that's what they did. And they were able to take their quarterback, who had a lot of experience under him at this point, who he is, I believe, Luke Altmaier plans to come back for next season. And so they took that, They doubled down on the run game. They really used their wide receivers well. Their defense played a very high level of football throughout the entirety of the year. They end up going 9-3 in the regular season, 10-3 overall after they beat South Carolina in their bowl game. And so,
and how's about this? If Illinois doesn't lose to what was the bad loss was Minnesota, right?
Minnesota, which, by the way, Minnesota was a pretty damn good football team this year. Like
right.
they were 7-5, but it wasn't like they were scoffed at 7-5. Like they competed this year. And that was a tough game coming off of a terrible loss at Oregon. I mean, that was a tough stretch of games.
But yeah, the other losses were Penn State, at Penn State, and at Oregon.
Yes.
So Illinois, and I like where you're at on this because this is very similar to the path that ultimately Ohio State had.
Yeah.
Was take care, beat who you're supposed to beat. Maybe you drop a game against a top team in the league. And Oregon and Penn State, especially on the road, are top teams in the league.
Yeah.
Illinois could have, if they don't lose to Minnesota.
It's a legitimate convo that they're in the college football playoff.
This year.
Yes, this year.
This year.
And they're returning a crap ton of starters next season. I think Gary said it was, I believe it's 16 or 18 of possible starters are coming back to the team. They are going to be ranked to begin the year. And Brett Bielema is building one hell of a program that's off of patience and defense and just good coaching and a good culture. But
I think they are very likely to be the next Big Ten team to have their first time in the playoffs.
So,
but I don't think they are the next Northern team to be in the to be in the championship.
That definitely would be a very, very hot take. But I will say this: like they play at Duke versus Western Illinois, versus Western Michigan, at Indiana, versus USC, at Purdue, versus Ohio State, at Washington, versus Rutgers, versus Maryland, at Wisconsin, Northwestern. That's a very favorable schedule. I mean, depending on if Indiana is able to continue the role that they're on, they may be underdogs in one game this year, and that's at home against Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to have a legitimate opportunity to make the playoffs this year with all the talent that they're returning and how good of a coach Brett Bielema is. So if
they don't have to see Nebraska.
For Nebraska football, a lot of people say, why can't we beat Indiana? Why can't, we take the world by storm and be 11-1 or whatever? For me, this season, I think Nebraska should be a little bit like Illinois. Have a season where you're over your win total. The win total, I think, is going to be about 7.5 for Nebraska. Go ahead, go 9-3, compete against Penn State, compete against teams, beat the teams that you regularly should. They'll probably have a bad loss sprinkled in there somewhere, but end the year where you're playing a South Carolina team who a lot of people thought should have been in the college football playoff, and you're winning that bowl game. And you're taking that bowl game, and it's not a pinstripe bowl where you're beating Boston College, and you're saying, oh, I guess it's momentum. You beat South Carolina in a bowl game heading into next year. It's a lot more momentum. It's like, hey, we're back. Hey, Nebraska's back. Hey, we can compete. Hey, if they do it this year, right? They go 9-3 this year, and they surprise people in the Big Ten. They're going to have a lot of guys coming back the next year to build off that again. They'll have a lot of returning starters like Illinois did because it is a younger team now that the old guard of Robinson and Gifford and Hutmaker have all moved on, Bullock, so on and so forth. So, hey, maybe be a little bit like Illinois. Why not?
And feel good like Captain on the stream says Nebraska Cornhuskers football team making the CFP in 2025.
Captain, there's no reason, Captain, why that shouldn't be the expectation every single year with how much money, resources, time, effort, and coaching that goes into Nebraska football. That should be the expectation every year, but we will see. All righty. It's a good show. We're going to have a good show for you today. We've already had a good show. Wilson Moore will be coming up at 8 o'clock next year on 1620 The Zone. You're listening to Gary and Matt.
Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the playoffs, which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorites athletes' performances. With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. And with Underdog's double flex option, you can even take 2 L's, turn them into a W. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the NBA to get my numbers back up, and so far, so good, as I've had some success, so at least I can stop complaining about the NBA for a week. But I won't complain about Underdog because it's the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with promo code ZONE right now, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
It's a rockin' Thursday here in the Big O as the Mavericks, man. What a team they got this season.
Super Bowl.
Man, like Jimmy, I don't know if you watched the game. I went as so far as to buy a Summit League Plus subscription yesterday.
I don't make as much as you.
What's that?
because I
What's
can't
that
afford
run
it.
you these days?
$9.99, not bad at all. I mean, I get all the Summit League games. It's not because
I have to donate plasma
because
to
you
do
get like I know the Big Ten Plus, like you just pay for your team. You get all.
No,
get all
no,
of
they,
them.
they don't do that anymore.
They don't
by
do
the
that
way.
anymore. Okay, you get all
But-
of the Big Ten Plus.
But
Good.
you
I wouldn't
only
know.
get on Big Ten Plus the games that are specified to Big Ten Plus, unless it's a
Gotcha.
replay. It sounds like with this Summit League Plus, it's every game.
every game,
Every game.
Hockey.
volleyball, hockey.
So
everything
there's
you
where
want.
the value is, because you said $10 and I was like, man, that's not that far off
Yeah.
from Big Ten Plus. But if you're getting every game and you are a Mavs supporter, I get it.
Yeah.
Like at that price range and you're getting all that stuff, I understand it.
Look, the Mavericks won yesterday's game 80-62. They defeated Denver, who was 0-4 in the Summit League. and 6-13 overall heading into that game. They handled business, but still.
But that means you got to go win that.
You got to go win that. And it's a bring your own juice game. There's not a lot of people there in Denver who are cheering for the Pioneers, and you got to go in, and it's a road trip, and you're playing a team you know should beat. We talked about it yesterday. It was for sure a trap game, and they didn't fall for the trap. Honestly, they really didn't play the best basketball they've played all year. They were only leading by 8 at the end of the first half. And the only reason they were leading by 8 is because Tony Osborne, who, by the way, is one of the most electric basketball players I've ever watched in my entire life. The dude is an absolute enigma. Hit a massive 3 at the end of the first half to put them up 8, but then they ran away at the end of the second half. Osborne went 4-4 from the 3-point line, 15 points. Dude, I don't know how much of Tony Osborne you've ever watched, but dude's a free throw merchant. I mean, he only had 1 free throw yesterday, but I've never seen anyone who draws fouls and just understands the art of drawing. And it's not like he's Trae Young where he's flopping into people. Like, he's drawing legitimate fouls. I mean, the guy's an incredibly smart basketball player. J.J. White had 15 points along with 2 assists. Markel Sutton, the star of the team, he had 10 points, 1 assist, and 3 rebounds. Cam Thomas, 8 points. It's a team, man. It's a legitimate team in Omaha. They play together well. They're super athletic. They know what they're doing. They're well coached. Chris Crutchfield, all the credit in the world. He's got this program moving, shaking, jiving. People are talking about the Mavs, man. People are talking about him. That's a big deal. Be. And it's warranted. It's absolutely warranted. So the Mavs have a massive game next week against the St. Thomas Tommies at Baxter Arena. It's going to be massive, dude. Going to be massive for the Summit League, massive for the team, massive for the program. Do you know what's massive for this program? We got Big Game Willie coming up next.
Big Game Willie.
Big Game Willie's going to join the program.
Free him.
World Herald's Wilson Moore coming up next. Talk about the Huskers. Do you know who wants a little respect tonight? It's the
Well
Nebraska Cornhuskers when they take on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights at Pinnacle Bank Arena. It's a big game. So do you know who we have, Mr. Caleb Henry?
You can only have one guest for ladies' night.
Yeah.
No, that's not your
I
line.
hope he'll come back.
That's
Oh.
not your line. It's a big game.
Big game, Willie.
Big game, Willie.
Big game, Willie.
We got
I knew I was going to mess it up.
Omaha World Herald writer extraordinaire, ladies' man, Mr. Wilson Moore joins Gary and Matt here on 1620. Willie.
How's it going, guys?
Thought he hung
You
up
didn't
because
ask
of
a
that.
question. You just said, Willie.
Willie.
Like,
Willie.
what was he supposed to
Here's
say?
Johnny.
Anybody home?
Jeez.
Wilson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on.
Are you a little disappointed as one of the catalysts of the Jack Mitchell Experience softball team that you will not be whining and dining tonight in the suite, and you will actually be doing your job and a commendable job at that?
You know what? Maybe just a little bit.
Yeah.
I hope the guys all have a good time. You know, at some point, I'm sure probably before the game, I will look up there and give a little wave. You know, just to acknowledge everyone, make sure
Little
everyone's
thumbs
having
up.
a good time. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the evening that Andrew Wegley has planned for them.
We can get some number 32
I was about to say.
sangrias
Shit down there.
We can get those to the media section.
Yeah,
I know how it's loose. It is a very loose security situation
is.
around that media
It is.
section.
If you want, I've walked in there before, just willy nilly, and just said hi to the boys. So I mean, you can have and girls. You can have I'm sure they can send you down a little number 32 sangria. You a sangria guy?
I'm not really a wine guy, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I know that's not the most
Surprising.
kind of
answer.
a boring answer, but yeah, not much of a wine guy.
Okay, Willie. I mean, set the stage here for me. I'm calling it a must-win game tonight against Rutgers. Depending on the fact that this team, once again for the second straight season, early on in the Big Ten play, are having road issues. It seems like every game at PBA is becoming more and more important. Am I wrong here? Are you agreeing with me or disagreeing that this is a must-win game against Rutgers tonight at 8 p.m. at PBA?
I'd agree. I think you hit the nail on the head about that. Just every game at home is a must-win game for Nebraska at this point. With we see the way this team performs at Pinnacle Bank Arena, and we see the way they perform away from home. It's stark. It goes back to last season, and it leaves basically no margin for error. So yeah, at this point, I think this game against Rutgers, a team that has a ton of talent but has not been particularly successful this season, I think it's a must-win game. In a few months, if Nebraska's winning some games on the road, then this kind of game becomes, maybe something that you have a little more margin for error. But as it is now, if Nebraska's not going to take care of business on the road, it just makes these all the more important, especially against a team that, beat UCLA the other day, but has not been very good this year, frankly. That, Rutgers has some major talent, but it hasn't translated, and it means Nebraska needs to take advantage.
What, if anything, have we learned about Nebraska's defense over the last 60 minutes since that 15-minute mark in Iowa City?
It's a good question, Caleb. I think
I feel like I'm at a
might not be
Hoiberg
thing-
presser.
You know how I like to be diplomatic with things.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Willie.
This isn't necessarily something we've learned, but that the way Nebraska plays defense invites teams to take a lot of three-pointers. Nebraska's got a big front line with Braxton Mia and Berke Buchtengel. There aren't a whole lot of teams, especially in the current version of the Big Ten, without like a Zach Edey type that can that can bang with them down low. But teams are going to take a lot of threes, and we saw that against Iowa and against Purdue. And I think the major question, when you think about what happened, and like you said, in those 60 minutes, is how much of that is a defensive issue with Nebraska and how much is Nebraska just running into a team at the wrong time. A guy gets hot and, it happens. That's basketball, especially Purdue is a fantastic team. I asked Fred Hoiberg more or less that question, and he said it's a combination, which, again, diplomatic answer, but I think that's fair, that Nebraska's defense has not been particularly sharp over the past 2 games, but also, Peyton Sandfort was just hitting like ridiculous step back threes with a hand in his face. So, I think it's certainly concerning if you're Nebraska, but it's also, you don't want to fall into the rabbit hole of, overreacting, overcorrecting to 2 bad games. So I think these next couple of games will be telling, especially against, a team like Rutgers that does not shoot the 3 as well as Iowa and Purdue does.
Wilson, everyone's kind of, not everybody, but there has been some rumblings about the starting lineup. Maybe there will be a change of pace in terms of who will be the 5 guys out there for the Cornhuskers after this bit of a tough stretch on the road. But more important than the starting lineup is the closing lineup. We did this exercise yesterday, Caleb and I want to do it with you. Wilson, give me your ideal closing lineup for Nebraska basketball. And then on top of that, I want you to give the closing lineup in order of importance, from most important guy on the floor in the closing lineup, and then maybe the least important guy on the floor. But give me your ideal closing lineup for Nebraska basketball.
Okay, ideal closing lineups. Obviously, you got to start with Bryce Williams and Juwan Henry. They're going to be on the floor.
And then it gets harder.
Give me Berke Buchengel.
Oh.
I think his combination of a guy who can finish and rebound and protect the rim is important. Raleigh Wooster.
Okay.
You want to have a veteran ball handler out there, and that's where it gets tough. After those 4, I think you see this guy out there a lot to end games, and I'm going to go with Sam Hoiberg.
Yep.
Boy.
One of the better perimeter defenders on the team. You see Nebraska close with him a lot because he's a guy you can trust on the defensive end. Fred Hoiberg often goes offense defense with him and Connor Essegian. So give me Sam Hoiberg as the 5th guy out there.
No, you only had 4 there. Bryce,
I did.
Berke, Raleigh, and then Sam.
Juwan.
Attaboy. Yeah.
That's very simple. That's very in line with what we were talking about yesterday. And I know conversation. Obviously, there's the starting lineup, and Fred and everyone else in the world who's ever coached for 5 minutes says it's not about who starts; it's who finishes. Yeah. But between there, do you anticipate there being a change to the rotation? Does Connor Essegian need to get in a little bit sooner to try to get him going? And Juwan has obviously been struggling offensively for a few games now. Do you anticipate any rotation changes, especially now that you can get right a little bit at home?
I don't know, because that's never really been Fred's MO.
Right.
Fred, he's a very even-keeled, even-tempered coach, and that was not. And obviously, there are times when you have to make changes. There are times when the game necessitates them. We've already seen, say Gavin Griffith, went from being a rotation guy to out of the rotation in the past couple months. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to see any major overcorrection. Obviously there are things that happen in the flow of the game. A thing I always notice is when does Andrew Morgan come in for Braxton Mia? Because that changes. Sometimes it's at the under 16, sometimes it's before. Sometimes if Mia is playing well and protecting the rim and grabbing rebounds, he gets a little more run after the under 16. So I think it's more subtle than that. I would be shocked, if we show up to PBA tonight and there's, a whole new starting 5. That's extreme. But, I think it's more just subtleties that come within the flow of the game.
Wilson, straight shooter question for you here. Give me the keys to the game. How does Nebraska walk away with a victory against Rutgers tonight?
Handle Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. They are both
yeah.
studs. Win the battle on the glass. You know, going back to last year, that's another thing. You know, just Nebraska. There's a pretty major correlation between Nebraska rebounding the ball and the Huskers winning. You know, I always say, you know, I remember the UCLA game. I was telling someone, if UCLA goes out and, you know, has the ball and gets 3 offensive rebounds on its first possession and scores, it's going to be a long day for Nebraska.
Yeah.
If Nebraska boxes out and finishes the possession in the first 20 seconds, we got a game on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and then just, you know, obviously the defensive effort, you know, closing out harder, staying with guys, staying with shooters in transition. That was a big point of emphasis Fred talked about after the Iowa game, that they lost Sanford in transition. So I'd say those 3 things: keeping the stars in check, rebounding, staying glued to guys and not letting them get away from them in perimeter for in transition on the perimeter.
We've hit the midway point of the Big Ten, of January, and looking at the Big Ten as a whole, Wilson, where do you feel like Nebraska overall fits in? We can see where the record is, and we can see that it's pretty much like Nebraska's going to go about 500. But where do you feel out of the 18 Nebraska slots in talent-wise and ceiling-wise with what they've put on the court so far this year?
I think Nebraska, the record is accurate.
Yeah.
Generally, you know, I think Nebraska is somewhere in, you know, like 8 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Big Ten is a lot deeper than it was last year. You know, I would be surprised if Nebraska finishes 3rd like they did last year, which is not a knock on Nebraska, but there are just so many. The Big Ten is so much more of a minefield than it was last year. It's a lot less top heavy. You know, I don't think there's a single Purdue like there was last year who's just going to run away with it. But it's just night in, night out. It's much more difficult. I think Nebraska has shown it's capable of handling that on the right night. You know, we've seen Nebraska come away with some good wins. So I think Nebraska will kind of settle into this kind of middle spot it's in now. You know, just trying to keep pace, trying to make the tournament, and you know, just trying to navigate this you know, minefield that is the Big Ten this season.
Wilson Moore of the Omaha World Herald here, talking about the Nebraska basketball's big game tonight against Rutgers. You know, Willie, when we talk about this game against Rutgers, and I think part of the reason why we're labeling it as a must-win is because Nebraska has a really, really tough schedule after this game. You're going to play the teams of Wisconsin, you're going to play Illinois, you're going to play Oregon. I think you're going to play Maryland, I believe is the next game right after. You know, 4 really, really good teams. And I think this team still is, in a way, searching for another signature win to definitely solidify themselves as a tournament team. Amongst those, so let's get rid of Maryland. Amongst those 3 ranked teams, Wisconsin, Illinois, Oregon, who do you think Nebraska's got the best shot at beating and picking up another big win for the resume?
Out of those 3, I will go with Wisconsin.
Okay. Now that game is on the road at the Kohl Center.
It is.
Okay.
But of those 3, only one's at home, and I think Illinois is just so ridiculously talented.
Right?
I mean, they might be the best team in the Big Ten. I really thought that until they lost to who they just lose to, USC.
Yeah, but KJ wasn't. You know, their best players.
That's true.
That, so you can kind of wipe that away. But I agree. With you.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin. I mean, are we kind of chalking up Oregon's on the West Coast not going to happen type deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between that, you know, the jet lag, that is, you know, just from a pure like logistical standpoint in terms of like being tired on the West Coast, I think that's a little easier than Washington, just because Washington's 2 days after that. You're
Sure.
still the second game on a West Coast swing, but I just think Wisconsin. We've seen enough. We've seen Wisconsin at its best this season, and it's when Omaha guy John Tonje is slashing to the basket and getting to the rim and hitting shots, and around him, guys are making threes and Steven Crowell's grabbing rebounds. We've seen Wisconsin at its best this year. We've also seen Wisconsin at its worst. We've seen what Wisconsin can look like when things aren't going well. We've seen what Wisconsin can look like when the Badgers are losing to teams that it maybe should beat. So with that in mind, I think Wisconsin is the team you're more likely to just catch on a bad night, and I think Nebraska is the kind of team that can really take advantage of the version of Wisconsin that doesn't play well, the version that doesn't grab rebounds, that has guys bricking shots. Those are games Nebraska can win, as Nebraska showed with Creighton and with UCLA. Nebraska can win those kind of ugly, scrappy type games, and when Wisconsin isn't rolling, those are the kinds of games it devolves into.
All right, Willie, we'll get you out of here on this. Give us your score prediction. What happens tonight at Pinnacle Bank Arena when the Huskers take on Rutgers?
I think it's going to be low scoring, as Nebraska
Okay.
has frequently played. I think Nebraska plays better on defense, and I think the Huskers win 68-59.
Oh, backdoor cover. Okay, Willie. I like that. 68-59. We'll keep an eye on it. We want to thank you so much, man, coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll big game Willie. We'll have a couple more of these down the line for sure.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Wilson. Wilson Moore, the Omaha World Herald, one of the best up-and-coming writers in Nebraska. Definitely go out
Up
there.
and coming. He's came. We should have him every big game.
Every
game's big.
So it would be Nebraska minus the points and then taking the under,
The under.
because the total right now is 146.5.
Too bad you can't bet on it in state. All righty. Coming up next,
Nice.
we're going from
Slip that in there.
men's basketball to women's basketball. And then right after that, around 8:40ish, we're going to have the one, the only, Steve Sipple here on Gary and Matt Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Gary currently on an aeroplane from Denver to Omaha. Caleb Henry filling in
Hello.
for Mr. Sharp today. If you missed anything, especially the beginning of the show, for those just joining us now, we lost not only an incredibly valuable member of the Husker athletic community, but just the Nebraska community in general when Jack Hoffman, the namesake of the Team Jack Foundation, passed away after his very, very long battle with pediatric brain cancer. Our thoughts, prayers, hopes, and condolences go out to the Hoffman family, and particularly his mother, Bree Hoffman, who also recently lost her husband not too long ago. And so thoughts and prayers out to them. If you want to listen to kind of our in memoriam of Jack and just the impact that the Hoffman family has made, not only just on the Nebraska community, but on the cancer research community, you can check that out on the Gary and Matt podcast page, segment 1. So moving on. So it's always tough, man. It's always tough to bring
It's
that
rough.
up. And to kind of
There
move
was
on
there was
from
an
it, but
extended conversation.
Yeah.
I'd encourage you all to go back
absolutely
and go back
beautiful.
and listen
Caleb,
to it.
Caleb, I'm so glad that you're here and that you were here to talk on it, because you've just had so much work and so many interactions and a big, big part of Team Jack's radio outreach. So really implore you all to go back and listen to that, because he meant a lot, and his family still to this day means a lot to this community. And no one, I mean, if you were, especially if you're in the stadium, but just being around the program, that'll be a moment you'll never forget in 2013 in the spring game when Jack went onto the field with the team and had the infamous run into the end zone. So just
There are
condolences and thoughts and prayers to the Hoffman family.
Let me add this. There are 2 experiences I have over the last 15 years or so. Obviously, so if you go 15 years, so I was able to catch the end of the Ndamukong Suh and like how loud the stadium got for all of that. Jared Crick picking everything up the next year, what you were able to get with Taylor Martinez, all the way through the stuff that you've had over the last few years. There have been some decent moments in Memorial Stadium, but the 2 biggest ones for me over the last 15 years are the spring game 2013 and the missing punter formation for Sam Holtz.
Yeah.
Like I was able to be there for that. Like there are powerful moments that have happened in Memorial Stadium. And that one ranks right up there, not just the last 15 years, the last quarter century, but that run, that 69-yard run for young Jack was a massive all-timer in the 100 plus years of Memorial Stadium, and someone that we will never forget here in the Nebraska community, obviously here with 1620 The Zone and everything that a lot of folks on this station have been involved with that Team Jack formation, whether they were a fill-in or a full-time person. But because it is a 4-hour radio program, there's a lot of other things to get into. I know,
absolutely.
and this one is just weird, man. It's just weird. Is the way it is, and I know that you can pretty much go, how are you going to get clicks? How are you going to get listens? Where you're going to bring up Caitlin Clark? Some people are going to roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, Caitlin Clark." Sorry, she's really, really good at what she does.
Yeah.
And apparently one guy really thought so. Like it's just it's
Did
weird.
you see that judge?
So the only thing,
the ruling on it?
no. So the only thing I saw, here, I'll give you the little bit I know. There's a stalker.
Yes.
Of young Miss Caitlin Clark.
Creepy.
And the only thing I know
doesn't work here, right?
No.
Okay.
Is that there was a stalker and immediately in the court said guilty as charged. Like that's all that I know. Please fill in the rest.
So it's the guy's name is Michael Thomas Lewis. He's a 55-year-old man. He let out according to NBC News, he let out multiple outbursts during his first appearance in court since he was arrested over the weekend and accused of making serious, vulgar, threatening online statements at Clark. And
That's
then,
not nice.
From what I've read, essentially that he was trying to find her. This guy was being a weird online creep, and then he, basically tried to go and find Clark, and he entered a plea of guilty. And
you got me.
Here's my thing. It's less so, this story is less so about the stalker and the guy being a weirdo, because, like, first off, this is a Caitlin Clark radio show, okay? I love Caitlin Clark. Gary loves
Pro Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark because she has transcended not only just basketball, but women's sports. Now,
Life.
has it only been Caitlin Clark? No, there have been other people who have done it, other programs such as Nebraska that have very much been a part of this massive, massive movement in women's sports.
She
But
was able to take advantage of a massive moment
yes,
in time, and obviously her being very, very good. I will say this. Let me say this, because I won't go so far to say I am absolutely pro Caitlin Clark. If she played at Nebraska, I would love her.
yeah,
Like that's what it is. She's one of those players. Stephen Ashworth, okay? If he played at Nebraska and not Creighton, I would love him instead of being like, God, that guy's just out there just drawing fat. He's gritty and he's going to go do whatever. There are people on teams, whether they are the massive level of Caitlin Clark or the just kind of your everyday, they're playing high school varsity basketball. There is someone that you go, I hate that guy. But man, if he was on our team,
sure.
Good morning, Carl Malone.
if he was on our team, I'm all about it. And Caitlin Clark very much for Nebraskans played that role. Once you separate yourself from the fandom and see the impact she was able to have on the game, to have on a lot of young women, to have on young girls, and not just girls, but on people in general, becoming really aware of women's sports, becoming really
Yeah.
aware of what Iowa had done, and then her going and taking the WNBA to the next level. There's no doubt that she's had an impact.
No, she has. I mean,
Yeah.
she's been the catalyst of this whole thing. And honestly, for me, that she's transcended the sport where I really don't care that she played for a college that I don't like. Now, here's my thing. I will go as far as to say this though. I'm a little disappointed in the WNBA. And not a little disappointed.
Okay.
I'm
I'm-
a lot.
I'm majorly
You can go with a
disappointed
lot.
You waited
in
till
the
8:30 for
WNBA.
this one.
And how they have just handled her coming into the league, how they did not protect her, how they allowed people in the league who were frankly jealous of her and the attention that she garnered, even though they believe that they're a better basketball player currently than she is. There was a lot of animosity towards her, and she got pushed around and shoved around and verbally abused. And then when she was getting verbally abused and people were getting hate for showing her hate and following her, it was almost as if they were like, it's your responsibility to stand up for the people that don't like you.
Right.
You know, you have to come out and you
Wow.
have to talk about, you have to defend people. You can't just sit quietly. And then the whole race card got played, and they basically did everything in their power to beat her up. Okay. And to try and use and not propel her, but to try and have her propel others. And like that, it's just not, you had to make her a star and had to make her must watch in order for everyone else to find out who else is in the league. But they wanted to just cash in it on too early, and they made her out almost to be a villain within the WNBA. But anyone with a sense and understanding how big of a star she is looked at the WNBA as the real villains.
But
Where is the WNBA now?
The time
Where-
player of the year? Why couldn't it have been all of the NBA?
WNBA.
Because
They're not as big of a deal. They're not as transcendent. They're not as important. They did not do what she did. They had the opportunity to do that. They didn't do it. She's the only one who did it. And now she's got a weird stalker who is sending her vulgar messages, who's just making her uncomfortable, who's an actual threat to the point where they had to bring her into court. And where's the WNBA? Because they ask her, you have to defend us. You have to, if people are coming after us and tweeting mean things about us because we, aren't so nice to you, you have to come and defend us. You have to say these things. Where are they now? Because legally, she was under threat, and they didn't say a word. Didn't say a word about it. Didn't stand with her. Didn't say this isn't right. Didn't say we need to be better. Nothing. It's just, she's got a 55-year-old man stalking her. Oh,
Many of us do.
but Kennedy Carter gets some mean tweets, and now it's Caitlin Clark's fault because she fouled her hard, and she's got to go around and she's got to stand up for her.
well, again, in so much of the animosity that whether it's from players or ownership or coaches, whatever it is in the WNBA, there needs to be a recognition that this is where the moment is. Could this have been Sue Bird? Like, could Sue Bird have been this player if she was playing in the 2020s? Maybe, but that's not the way everything lined up. Kelsey Plum, dynamic scorer, I believe at Washington. and now playing really, really well in the WNBA. But that was a few years before this moment and what Caitlin Clark was able to do. Even Sabrina Ionescu at Oregon, dynamic career. I think she just won a championship with the Liberty. She was on the USA team, but it wasn't this moment. And Caitlin Clark took advantage of this moment, was extremely dynamic in the WNBA overall, seems extremely ungrateful for what she has brought to the game and brought to what they ultimately get, their bank accounts.
All right. Bill wants to yell at me. Bill, what do you got to say, my man?
Yes.
Yeah, you're a fool, man.
Okay, why? Why am I a fool?
Because you have no idea the harassment that Caitlin Clark actually took and the protection that the WNBA has given her all year.
How much? Okay, so what? No. This is a good conversation. But what protection did they give her? Because I do want to say this: she did get abused all year and hit all year and fouled hard all year. And there were points, and you have to agree with me, where they were trying to have her defend the league after people were going, and I'm not saying it was right for people to go after the people that were following her and talking crap to her on the court. Okay. I'm not defending them saying that, but I do think they put themselves in not her. They didn't put Caitlin in the best position, but I want to hear what you got to say, Bill.
Yeah. I want to know what position you think that they're supposed to put a 22-year-old athlete in, who's basically going to be your rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Who is going to be the face of your league.
Yes.
Because they have protected her and they have done everything for her
so
all
what did
year
they do?
long.
Because here's the thing. Kennedy Carter goes ahead and
she's literally the most popular player in the league.
Wait, Bill.
She has quite literally been in every single social media graphic.
Yes.
She has literally been in every single article, every single headline.
But is that WNBA or is that the media?
The fact that she is the most popular player in their league, and they have not steered away from the fact that she is driving attendance.
So Bill, couple of things here. Okay, first off, she gets Time Player of the Year. She gets time. She is the Time Athlete of the Year, and the commissioner of the WNBA goes ahead and doesn't say, "Oh my God, we're so happy for Caitlin. Caitlin has done so much for this league. Caitlin has actually gone out of her way to make sure that when away teams come and play at sold-out Indiana Fever games, that they get part of the ticket sales." She didn't say that. She goes, "I don't understand why the whole WNBA wasn't Athletes of the Year." I mean, that's not how you propel your superstar. Did Kennedy Carter get suspended for games when she literally took a cheap shot at Caitlin Clark out of nowhere? No. When Angel Reese and I'm not targeting on any of these other players, but when they go after her, they felt like it was okay to go after the superstar, to try and belittle the superstar. And at no point did the WNBA commissioner or the league in general say a cease and desist and say, "Hey guys, we have to stop saying these things about Caitlin Clark. We have to stop trying to treat her unfairly on the court. We have to stop taking cheap shots at her." Why didn't they do that?
Here, if you want to bring her name into this, you can bring her name into this.
Sure.
Because it's what you want to do. So if you're going to bring up the Reester Bunny, that completely and utterly is all ego on her part.
On Angel's part?
Multiple, yes, on Angel's part.
Okay.
The Reester Bunny. Her last name is Reese.
Yes.
You got to
like
keep
it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear
Keep
you.
it up.
I hear you. I hear you.
So,
I hear you.
If you're going to bring that up, you're from Chicago.
Yeah.
Or Chicago adjacent.
Chicago, Jason. Attaboy, Bill.
Yeah.
You're right. No,
Shout
I
out
am.
Skokie.
Shout out Skokie.
She quite literally said, remember, Caitlin Clark is not the only person who plays in the WNBA.
Yes.
Which is a valid point
Well,
because they have had this star power for years.
Bill, I do
and
want
they have never been able to take advantage of it to the point that they should have.
Mhm.
So
Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, many, many, many other great players, including Maya Moore, who won like 4 championships with the Minnesota Lynx
Bill, you and I are on we're on the same page
team.
here.
In Minnesota.
But I want to say this, Bill. You're a little incorrect here because Angel Reese wasn't saying there were other players in the NBA. She said
WNBA.
In the WNBA. She said, we're not just all watching women's basketball because of one person. We're watching women's basketball because of me too. And I want everyone to know that. Now, that's a whole other conversation, right? But I think that for me, when I talk about failure to protect Caitlin Clark for the WNBA, I think the failure lies in the fact that the commissioner has to go to every team and every player and say, hey, when we don't take cheap shots at her, on the court, off the court. If you ever invoke her name, don't invoke it in a negative light, because that's not good for the league. If we invoke Caitlin Clark's name, you're going to say it with appreciation. You're going to say it with positivity. They never did that. They allowed all these players to walk all over her on the court and off the court. And I know where you're coming from. She is the rookie of the year. She is the superstar. But don't you agree?
Why
could
did
have
they-
done
why-
a little bit more in raising her up in terms of not saying, why isn't every WNBA player the athlete of the year?
I'm going to hang up and I'm going to listen to you guys now.
Sure.
But I got one more thing to
Say
say
it,
to
Bill.
you,
I love
McMaster,
this.
before you go.
This is great. No, say it.
If you're a Bulls fan, you can't be a or you can't be a LeBron fan. Bye.
Look, here's the thing. Bill came out hot and heavy there, but I love that. I love that.
I think you guys were a lot closer on a lot of it.
I think I
It'd
agree.
You guys should be friends.
But I will say this part, because you said it at the end, and I'm not going to agree with that, that the league should have gone and told all the players, you got to go kiss Caitlin Clark's feet if you're going to talk about her at all.
That'll get ratings.
Now,
Not kiss
no,
her feet.
that-
but
that's what you
don't
were saying.
stomp her down.
If you ever
Rex
talk
Ryan
about her,
did about
if you
her
ever
down.
talk about her, it's got to be praising her. That's the only thing you can do. I disagree with that.
Sure.
I would say if people are out of line with what they're saying, then you step in.
Yes.
That and I think
And
that's
they
I think
didn't do that.
and I think that's more of what you're saying.
They didn't do that.
If they're-
by
if
the
they're
way,
being
what
cheap-
what has Caitlin Clark done to be stepped on and to be talked about that way?
She said, "Okay, here's the other cheek."
Yeah.
Like she just keeps getting smacked around. And of course, all of this us having this conversation is because there was a weird stalker, because everything continued to be allowed to happen. But I think the WNBA, here's my issue. It's mostly that they didn't say, "Hey, this is a good thing for us. Let's appreciate it."
Yeah. That's the biggest problem.
Instead,
by
they
far.
said, "We've got an issue with you not talking about everyone else." That part comes up too.
Alrighty. We're having the man, the myth, the legend up next. Mr. Steven Sipple joins the program here. You're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. Our heated debate over Caitlin Clark brought us a little bit over late, so no fancy intros. We're going to get right to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Steven Sipple. Sip, how you doing?
Good, Matt. And how are you doing?
I'm doing incredible today. I got a question for you. I know you're going to be at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Oh, by the way, it's Gary's out today, so it's me and Caleb Henry on the,
Sip.
on the microphone.
Hi, Caleb. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man.
Probably should have led that in like a professional radio guy, so you knew exactly who you were talking to. But this is all a fluid situation. You'll be at the PBA game tonight. You'll be at Rutgers versus Rutgers versus Nebraska. You having a number 32 sangria in the press box tonight?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to be there tonight. I'm in Oklahoma City right now.
Okay.
I got 3 of the grandkids. We're going to the Thunder and
that's
Cavs
awesome
tonight. So no, I'll miss that game. And I don't know what you're talking about. What's that 32 side? I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's ladies' night tonight.
Ladies' night, Sipple. It's your night. They made it for you.
Have you not heard about this?
I'm not.
Okay,
Lord.
so
Give it to 'em.
so you know the themes that have been kind of hit and miss. There's been the Office theme was the last one out, and they abandoned that in like the last 7 minutes of the game. They've had other themes, but this one is ladies' night. So the first however many that show up get a Fred Hoiberg car freshener. They will have in the team shop a Fred Hoiberg's head, and it says, "Our coach is better looking than your coach." And at the beverage stands, they also have specialty number 32 sangrias.
That's fascinating.
We got to cut that. Can we cut that as a drop for the show? That's incredible. Are you pro or anti ladies' night, Mr. Sipple, after hearing what the festivities will be?
I would say pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the going out on a limb. It seems like that's going out on a limb.
Yeah.
But, so I kind of wish I could. The funny thing is, Caleb, when you get to be my age, I probably wouldn't even notice any of that was going on. And so I'm glad you told me.
Were you at the office night? Did you know what was going on for office night?
I did.
Okay.
Now listen, I only knew because I heard so many people. In fact, one of the younger people told me before the game. They're doing this office thing. It makes no sense. No, I'm a huge fan of The Office, so
I figured you'd be.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too many things disparaging because it didn't. That kind of stuff doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I hear colleagues like at football games, basketball games, talk about the in-game production and have very strong opinions on it, and I just don't. I just don't have strong opinions on it.
You're just there for a good time.
Well, yeah, and I'm kind of there for the game.
Yeah.
And Caleb, you understand, and Matt, you understand. Anymore, you're like tweeting during the game, and I'm writing during the
Right.
game. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
you're
really-
working.
I don't really have. I'm never the guy to ask about the fan experience because I don't really go as a fan. you
Yeah.
know?
All right. Well,
As long as they do putt for a Porsche, they can do whatever other things they want to do.
As long as they do what?
The putt for a Porsche?
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar.
okay.
Oh, no,
we're good.
They do the full court
We're
putt.
good. We're good.
No,
we
no,
got a lot to get to.
my
We got a lot to get to than the in-game
Your name
experience.
kinda gives
Hold
it
on,
away.
I got to explain myself.
Go ahead.
I thought he said puff.
Oh, now
Oh,
no,
putt,
no.
putt to
No, no, no.
That's
we're
a
not-
CU game, Sip.
we're not puff passing for Porsches.
Jesus.
We're putting. We're putting.
I didn't know what that was. Yeah.
Okay, so Sip, we're not going to. We may not completely abandon basketball talk at this point, but I want to get right to the nitty gritty. The question that may be on a lot of people's minds: where the heck is Nebraska at in terms of special team coordinator? Where is your read? Is this going to continue on for a couple more weeks? Are there guys that they're looking at? Is this a cut and dry situation? Like, what are you looking at in terms of who's going to be the next third phase coordinator for the Huskers?
I think he's probably narrowed down.
Okay.
I think he's got it narrowed down to. I think he's maybe got it done. You just don't know. I'm sorry, I'm in a hotel lobby.
I thought that was a laugh track for a second.
No, you always got to keep in mind that the other party may still be working,
Yeah.
or is still working probably, and so yeah, it's like the announcement time can be dictated by that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's going on here.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it
Okay.
based on what I've heard. If the decision isn't made, it's close.
Okay.
So I would just say, if since we're talking to fans or at least some fans, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
He's got a good handle on it.
Okay. All right. We'll read between the lines. We'll take that as we will.
Well,
Don't worry about it.
in SIP, there's a ways to go until spring ball even starts and getting to the spring game, and obviously they've gone through in the transfer portal and upgraded pieces and gotten a lot of different pieces in, from a long snapper, from a punter to potential return guys. Like, there's, even without knowing right now who that special teams coordinator is, does it feel like special teams is in a better place into 2025?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, he's making a move that's big.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, Caleb, I guess I look at that as like a first step.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to jump to, I don't know. Let's just see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of over the, it'll get better automatically. It hasn't gotten better automatically for a long time in Nebraska.
You're right.
So I don't sign off. Caleb, I was a younger man. I used to sign off on things pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
ADs, head coaches, assistant coaches, associate ADs, whatever. I'm just not as quick to sign off now. I've seen a lot of failure. I've seen some really bad hires. And so let's see it. But I get back to your original question. These are always awkward kind of moments, because I think there'll be an announcement in due time, but I think a lot of this depends on the other party and that person's schedule.
Sip, I was talking to Caleb earlier in the show, and it was almost like we couldn't really find a definitive beginning of the transfer portal era and the NIL era, because it's like every year is so different. It seems like there are new rules, there's new stipulations, there's new stakes, things are changing.
It's always starting over.
So my question to you is, what is the biggest change you've seen from the transfer portal NIL era this year from last year?
It's hard to characterize it, but
Sure.
it's sort of more of a free for all right now, because there's this sort of frenetic activity before there's going to be some order. In July or July 1, when there's some stipulations in place, and a lot of them, the money part of it, the money piece moves in house, or a lot, $20.5 million of it moves in house.
Yeah,
there'll be a little bit more order, and it just feels like there's just one last burst of frenetic activity in this wild kind of world before there's some degree of normalcy. That's how I'd say. That's what I've noticed. It's, I don't know. I don't know. I hope some people may say, well, it's not that crazy.
sure.
I'd say it's pretty crazy.
I'd say it's pretty damn crazy.
It is crazy.
It is crazy. It's the wild west.
Like, if you peek at the transfer portal at all, with the going in and going out, and then reversing decisions, NFL draft, no, I'm going to come back. Now I'm back in the portal.
Yeah.
It is nuts. But you're right. When you get to the summer and you get to the rev share, like places like Texas Tech have already come out with what their percentages are going to be on that rev share for sports.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for the Red Raiders, their football program is going to get 69.3% of that revenue. Do we have any idea where Nebraska is going to split this, or when? Because, I mean, they don't have to make an announcement, I guess, but it seems like places are going to announce what their numbers are.
Yeah. So at the percentage, you can do the math here. What I've heard about Nebraska, and Sean Callahan's reported this, is I think that it'd be $15.5 million towards football.
Okay. That's about 3/4. Yeah.
Yeah, in that range, and then a big chunk. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a big chunk towards basketball. I would guess I was struck by men's basketball. I was sort of struck by it's very dominated by football and men's basketball. But I suppose that's the way it will be pretty much everywhere. I think the one thing that, I mean, by way of educating people, I was having this conversation with a coach yesterday. Actually, there's going to be more than half the schools in FBS that won't have 20.5 million available.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot. I know. In fact, I talked to a Big 12 coach, and he said that they're in the Big 12. I mean, half the teams won't. They won't be able. They won't be fully. I'll say fully vested.
Mhm.
They just won't be.
Yeah.
The Big 10, they will be. I think everybody will. They'll have the 20.5 million rev share number, and I think most will have, an operational NIL situation like Nebraska. Nebraska's in a pretty good spot though. But the thing is, when you talk to more and more people, and it really hits you that it's not like there's always going to be enough money.
Mhm.
And that probably applies to Nebraska. There's going to be times where, you get to be kind of tapped out, and then you got to regenerate. And and this would be, if that were to happen in a school, this would be the time, because they've gone through this enormous amount of activity. A lot of these schools, they've had to pay high profile or even low, not even high profile, just mid profile guys a lot of money. But that money just doesn't. It's not like there's an endless pot. That's the most interesting thing to me, is they got to watch their numbers, these schools. So it's been I find it to be interesting. It's sort of unnerving. It's not what you probably want, because it feels like a big money grab.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll get better.
Steve Sipple of Husker Online. Steve, we'll get you out on this. I'll go down the line here. Samori Toure, Trey Palmer. Then you had Billy Kemp and Marcus Washington. Last year, now it's Isaiah Nayer and Jamal Banks. Those are all the transfer wide receivers that come in and essentially, rose to the top. What do you think makes Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter a little bit different in the fact that maybe they can produce a little bit more than those guys have in the past? Sans Palmer, who was a draft pick.
Well, Torrey was very, very productive.
He was.
So if they can be, like, if you said they're going to be as productive as Samori Toure and Trey Palmer, that would be enormous.
Sure.
I mean,
a downfield threat.
Yeah.
Exactly. Look up Tamori.
Sure, go ahead.
Look up Tamori's number, but I think his yards per catch was like 17.6.
Yeah.
It was a big number.
Sure.
Maybe
can I rephrase the question a little bit, Sip? Can I rephrase it? Because it's not. I kind of misspoke there in terms of production. Just in general, just characteristics. What makes those guys, Hunter and Key, different than the guys that they've brought in previously?
Well, full disclosure, I've watched a lot of Hunter. I haven't watched a lot of Key,
okay,
but I know about Key's background. I know about Key's background, and what he gives you is veteran. He's veteran. He's proven. He's got a big body. The thing I will watch when I get around to it is how is he against man coverage. And I think he's probably pretty good. Hunter, whom I've watched a lot of, is a strong, gifted receiver, good against man coverage, good hands, great run after catch. I love him. I mean, I think he'll be. I'm not going to put a great tag on him, but he'll be a factor immediately because his physical maturity and his. I mean, and his big thing is if I could stay on my feet better, I'd score more touchdowns. So he's going to work on that.
Yeah.
Not that like I said, he's a good run after catch guy, and he's strong. So don't be misled. But he just wants to keep his feet a little better. So those guys, and here's the thing. Internally, I've heard some people say that Hardly Gilmore might be the best of the three.
Wow.
He's just not as he's younger.
Yeah.
Not as seasoned. So we'll see.
Okay. Okay.
19 and a half yards per reception for Samori Toure in 2021.
And Hardly
Good
Gilmore.
God,
had-
I was wrong.
Jalen Lloyd, by the way, 19.6 this past year.
That's pretty good, but Torre was much more prolific.
He got a
Yeah.
lot more passes.
Hey, Sip,
Yeah,
we
no.
really, really appreciate you coming on every Thursday, man. Look forward to it every week. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
God bless you guys. See you
Yes,
later.
God bless you too, Sip.
Thanks, Sip.
That's Steven Sipple, the one, the only, the incredible, the impeccable, every Thursday here on Gary and Matt on 1620. Don't go anywhere. We got Brian Edwards on the bottom of the hour. We still got Husker football, a little bit of NFL, a little bit of college football playoff. It's a mixed bag to end this Thursday here on Gary and Matt. Chestnut checkers. Chess, not checkers. Can you see what the Baltimore Ravens did, Mr. Caleb Henry?
Oh, with getting Derrick Henry?
No.
Oh,
No.
wait, that was in the offseason. That was a
Won
long
Super Bowl 35.
Oh, yeah.
So Deontay Johnson's had one hell of a season.
Yeah.
Okay. Where he goes from being on the Carolina Panthers, a pretty highly regarded wide receiver, incredibly talented wide receiver, so much so that the Baltimore Ravens went out on a limb and said, look, we need some help in our wide receiver room. We're going to go out and acquire Deontay Johnson. But then Johnson doesn't get the run that he wants. Not very happy about the situation in Baltimore. I don't even think he wanted to be in Baltimore to begin with, frankly. his attitude leads him to the point where he is gone. He leaves Baltimore. They don't like him. He doesn't like them. And he ends up going to Houston. Okay? So he's at Houston for a bit. And guess what happens? He ends up getting waived by Houston. Okay? So then what does Baltimore do? Baltimore then picks up, claims Deontay Johnson. Now, clearly, they have no want or intention to play Deontay Johnson or probably even have him around the program. But now, because the Ravens have picked up Deontay Johnson, if Deontay Johnson, who's set to become a free agent in March, signs with a different team, guess who gets a compensatory draft pick?
It's always trying to think ahead when you're in those general manager offices, trying to come up with all of those little ways.
Yeah,
that's why with Major League Baseball, it's always like, well, who is this outstanding Japanese pitcher talking to this week? Who is this? Who's this Cuban slugger talking to this week? Like when you're talking a lot of like the overseas players, or what are they trying to do contract wise? Now, sometimes it's a little dirty. Yeah, obviously, in this case, there's no intention to play him, but he also really wasn't playing.
Well, so he's
anyway.
So I'll say this: he's not going to play because they actually won't get him until after the Super Bowl.
Right.
So he won't be on the roster until the season is over.
Not like he was happy with his usage anyway.
No, I mean he wasn't even.
And there's sometimes it's a little predatory with baseball on where you've got the years that count towards
arbitration.
Yeah, all of that. So it's like, I only played you so many games. I'm going to send you back down. There are times where they're big braining themselves into something that just looks morally wrong, but on the bank account, it helps you out long term. And when you're looking at how big draft picks can turn into, even getting something that's compensatory can turn into something better for you going forward. I like the big brain move.
I wonder. So let's throw this into college football. A lot of these teams, like, they go out, they put a lot of resources into guys, they pay guys a lot of money, and then 1 year later they enter back into the transfer portal and end up somewhere different. Look at a guy like Chief Borders, right? Goes from Florida to Nebraska, Nebraska to Pitt, Pitt to UNLV. Mm-hmm. Look at the MGK who just signed with Nebraska from Arizona.
That's right.
He was at a bunch of different spots beforehand too. I wonder, I don't know, maybe I don't mean to get into the weeds here a little bit, but there has to be a bit of a fear, right, with college football, with these donors, with these revenue sharers, these athletic departments, that you can put so much time, money, and effort into a player, and then they can just get up, go, and leave whenever they want, right? And I wonder if you never get to the point, will they ever get to a compensatory model where if you are to lose a certain type of player, let's say they put players into tiers. Hey, you're a tier 1 player. You're a tier 2 player. You get paid. It's kind of how they do in pro volleyball. That's how they pay players, right? They play players on a tier system. You have X amount of tier 1 players, X amount of tier 2 players. I wonder if they end up going with that model, or what model they end up going with, if there will be a compensatory model where, hey, Nebraska, you just lost a really important piece to your team, or you just lost a tier 1 player, or you just lost. So in doing so, we're going to give you extra money, or we're going to try and help you to keep a competitive balance. I don't know. College football has to go under a certain model specifically in order to do something like that. But I wonder, it's really all about what model are they going to, because at some point you have to hammer down, there's got to be a collective bargaining agreement. There has to be contracts. There has to be a players union. There has to be something set where every year the transfer portal and the NIL and everything is just different and no one knows what's going on.
Well, you're right. The first thing you have to do is have a model that everybody's working under that isn't changing every single year.
It's crazy.
And probably some of that is you're able to do contracts, but you're also going to be working under revenue share. So how much money are you going to be paying anybody? So let's say there's a player and they come in and it is a contract that goes up every year. They're getting $50,000 as a freshman, $75,000 as a sophomore, $100,000 as a junior, third year they redshirted, whatever it is. But they have a player option. Like you're essentially talking about contracts.
Yeah.
But if they go and hit the portal after year 1, whoever takes them out of the portal owes Nebraska $100,000.
Sure.
Like that's the part, because you're not getting draft picks. You can't say, "Oh, we get dibs on that 5-star."
Yeah.
Like that, you're not going to have it work that way. I called claimsies.
Yeah.
What you'll have to have is within that system, because everyone's got the money. They're all doing the rev share, but just like Sip was talking about, not everybody's going to be fully vested into that 20.5 this first year. What you'll probably have to have is if somebody hits the portal and you pick them up, you owe the previous team
For sure.
so much money. I don't know what that X number of dollars is, but you owe them something because they took the time
Yeah, to
to
develop the guy.
develop them, to pay them over the course of that year, whatever it is. If you bring somebody in and you're paying them $50,000 for a year and they play in their 4 games, they develop, they become a contributing member of a college society,
Sure.
they get better, they get a year older, they're a year wiser, they've gone through the weight program, they're more physical, they're more knowledgeable of everything going on, and then they go somewhere else who gets to immediately benefit from that.
So
What you should have to do
Yeah.
if you pick them up out of the transfer portal is compensate who you got it from for their time. I don't know if you build in with any of that, any ramifications for the players. That's probably where a contract comes in, that you cannot leave after so much time. If you do,
yeah,
there's
there's a whole
that's a different conversation.
Let's get to this. Okay. The reason I bring up this combo though isn't because I want to sit here for the next 15 minutes or this entire time of the segment and do hypotheticals back and forth. Because at that point, it's just words into the microphone. No one at the NCAA headquarters is listening probably to this and thinking,
That
oh,
we
those
know
two
of.
guys and
It could be
those
big
two guys in
Packer
Omaha have really great ideas. Let's get on this now.
I mean, I can text a couple people if you want them to tune in. Like,
I know some former NCAA
if
employees.
that's what we're
the
doing.
Point is, the point is this, and I want to have this conversation with you.
Okay.
You like Vallis?
The reason I bring up the compensatory picks and the system of, well, you have to give money to, or in order to take players, and teams can't just be routed and rooted. They need something back in order to keep a competitive advantage, and so you can avoid teams like Marshall, who just lose all of their players all at once and don't have enough to even play in their bowl game. The reason I'm bringing this up is because college sports in general has an incredible opportunity to manufacture the most efficient and best way to conduct a league. And what I mean by that is, look, you're sitting here, you're the last one to do it. You're the very last major sport, major organization to say players are going to get contracts, players are going to have a collective bargaining agreement, players are going to be in a union, teams are going to get X amount of money, teams will be able to do this and do that. You're the last big sport to sit down and say, okay, this is how we're going to make a league that is beneficial for not only just the coaches and the teams and the parties involved, but also for the players. And so they have a golden opportunity to make that happen. And so what they need to do in the NCAA is start looking around to all the different leagues across not only just this country, but all the countries across the world, to go and pick and grab and nip and bite and steal like an artist, to make a system that is beneficial for not only just the schools, not only for the coaches, not only for the players, but the fans as well. I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever see again a league that has as much popularity, that has as much investment, that has as much resources, time, and tools as college football and college sports in general. We'll never see a organization like this have an opportunity to build up, to have a foundation like this again. And so,
but it's so much tougher with an organization
that is incompetent.
Well, one, incompetent, but two, of this size.
Yes.
When you're talking about those other professional leagues, that's the big difference on why the NCAA is the last, because there's been this amateurism model.
Yeah,
but
and it's gone.
But when you're talking about these professional leagues, how many teams are in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, even the new volleyball leagues? When you start to talk about, let's look internationally. Well, how many teams are in the Brazil Soccer League? How many are in the Premiership? How many are in this or that league for all of these international? How many teams are playing in the Euro League for basketball?
Sure.
And all the different tiers for the way things work. It's none of those Add all of those up, by the way, right now, and you do not have how many are under the NCAA umbrella.
Sure.
All of those that I just mentioned
Yeah.
are not the same number that you have for the NCAA, especially when you start going division by division. But when you're talking just Division One, it's over 100 that you have to.
oh my God! The
it's-
basketball.
Yeah,
Basketball is like what?
it's a couple hundred.
It's
Yeah.
a couple hundred.
So the size, along with the past incompetence,
yes,
makes this extremely difficult.
it's gargantuan.
But I do like what you're talking about, where there is an opportunity,
There is.
and you can, when they said transfer portal. Well, guess what? That transfer portal, that's not something that they came up with here. It's international soccer leagues. They've got their transfer windows.
Yes.
Okay. Well, how do you morph that? How does it work better? Okay. Well, we're going to shrink the transfer portals, not just any time. Now there's transfer portal windows, and it's adjusting those. But man, it's going to be, as long as you keep just going piece by piece, there's going to have to be an overhaul.
Well,
And then everything is now under this one system. And Andy says, when will the first NCAA player strike be? That's probably going to come up if there are contracts and there is a union.
absolutely.
Which, by the way, wasn't it Northwestern that was trying to was it Northwestern?
that was the.
I know that was before NIL, before transfer
That was
portal.
back in like 2000. I want to say 10ish, 11ish. Don't quote me, but I remember it was a very, very big deal about, and then they all placed the ballots, and then it went immediately to the courts to figure out even if they could have this vote and even this could be a thing, and it didn't end up working out. I'll say this though, like you bring up a great point. It's a really big organization. There are so many teams. They need to start looking at this though. First off, they just need to stop being in the courts. Okay, number one, the NCAA
Get ahead of the courts for once. Jeez.
To stop being in the courts. They're trying to hold on to whatever power they have left. The only way that anything is going to get solved is if they honestly just say, all right, we're going to relinquish it. We understand that amateurism is dead. We understand that for a very, very long time, we took advantage of the name, image, and likeness of players and benefited off of it greatly.
Including mine. That was a stupid thing that we had to sign.
You're a D1 athlete. You were a D1
I was
athlete.
long time ago.
A long time ago.
Now over a decade ago.
Jeez.
Tore my shoulder throwing javelin at Ole Miss.
But
I had to sign it. That was one of the first things you did when you got to campus. You got this little sheet, and it was you were signing away your name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
To the point where like I couldn't host a throwers camp because I did track and field. I did throws in college, but that was dumb. That, like, when you look at where things are right now,
yeah,
that was so dumb. I was like, I'm not making $100,000 a year. I want to go do a camp and make like 50.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that they just need to strip it down to the studs and say, look, all right, we're done. Okay, we got it. We were wrong. We shouldn't have been doing that. We probably could have avoided this many, many, many years ago and had it in a controlled system, and we knew what we were doing was incorrect, but now we're paying for it. And they got to stop holding on to whatever little bit of power they have left and just let it go and say, okay, we're going to rebuild, right? But we got to understand this, though. Basketball is different from football. Football is different from volleyball. Volleyball is different from soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer is different from golf, right? So what?
And they've all been operating under the same
same roof. And so what you need to start doing is saying, okay, yes, all of these leagues are under the umbrella of the NCAA, but they're all different leagues. They're all different systems. You get different. I mean, just like how we do in pro sports. The NFL is run very differently than the NBA and the NHL and anything like that. And so that's number one. But the point being is that, man, you got a shot here. College football, college basketball, college sports in general, they have a shot to make an incredibly interesting league, incredibly interesting product, a product that we haven't seen before, a product that is unique from the different leagues that we currently watch on Sundays and during the week and whatnot that are true professional leagues. They have an opportunity to grab the best bits of everything and really make what you're watching with your own eyes and what you're following through the offseason something that is different from everything else, that is the most efficient, that is the best way of doing things, that is something that can garner the eyes of everyone who's a fan of sports. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, and I don't trust them.
Well,
I just don't think it's going to happen.
They have the opportunity to squander it all.
But it pains me. They have a golden egg here because they're the last ones to do it. They're the last ones to see what went wrong when the NBA did this. What went wrong when the NFL did that? What is soccer? What is European soccer doing right that we can bring here and put into football? It's a massive, massive opportunity. And it's such a pain in the ass that I love college sports, and I know they're just going to screw it up.
Well, here's a statement and a question. The statement is they have to do all of that while balancing, and in some cases, a little bit of a charade. They're student athletes.
Yes, there's still students.
There's the academic portion of this. Like you have to balance that. The question with all of that, if every sport is now under its own czar, whatever, whoever's running it
has their own commissioner. Or
there's been the breakaways to do this for the Power Four, as Andy says.
Yeah.
Like, whatever these things are, at what point do you lose the fans? And I know for me, I'm not holding on to some bygone era the same way a lot of people are as college fans, where it's like, I miss the way it was in 1986. I'm not holding on to it in that way. Well, because I participated. It was solid. I was 4 years away from being born. But I participated in collegiate athletics at a time that was in flux and changing. And then my middle sister did. And then my youngest sister, as a matter of fact, her last year of college was like the first year of NIL. So like we kind of ran the gamut, and my dad did college athletics. So like in the 80s, and he talked a lot about how dudes for Oklahoma State were making a lot of money on their baseball team.
Yeah.
Like
Shout out Will Clark.
I've seen the way a lot of these things have gone, from talking with my dad, from obviously what I do as a career now, and then everything in between from being in college athletics. It's all continuing to change, and it seems like with each change, you lose a little bit of who the fans were.
So,
at what point with a massive change with this, do you just lose a lot more to the point where it's like that ultimately didn't benefit anybody?
Well, part of the aura of college sports was this. There's this age-old saying, right? When you get mad at a professional team, what have the Bears ever done for you? What have the Cowboys ever done for you? What
They
have
did
the
a lot
Chiefs,
in the 90s.
What have the Chiefs ever done for you, right? But because
Bears have made me very sad.
But if someone said to me, what has Nebraska done for you? I was like, Nebraska has given me the best 4 years of my life. Nebraska has given me an education. Nebraska gave me an opportunity to pursue the career that I want, and it has made me better. When I asked Jimmy, what did Kansas do for you? I'm sure there's a laundry list of things. I forgot where you went to college.
Southern Illinois, Edwardsville.
Southern Illinois.
Shout out Cougars.
We played them in women's basketball. Yes, I've said that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so what it really boils down to in losing the fan interest is it used to be this. The difference between me and an athlete was
a lot more girls.
They're just a lot and they're just a lot more athletic than I am, right? And they have a little bit more of importance than I do on campus. Granted, they have way more responsibility than I do, because they not only do they have to juggle being a student, but being an athlete, two very difficult things to do. So there's a give and take there, right? But at the end of the day, everyone's poor. Everyone is doing classes. And
now we're talking about radio.
There's a little bit, There's a relation there. You can relate to the athlete a little bit. Nowadays, with the NIL, with the transfer portal era, there's no relating to me. When I'm standing at the bar, and if Dylan Raiola was standing right next to me, him and I are not the same. That guy is worth. You
guys think you're beating Houston on Saturday?
Yeah. I mean, that guy's worth millions of dollars, and I'm in hundreds of $1,000s worth of debt. Okay. I mean, it's just, there's not a comparability there. And so when these alumni look at these athletes, there's not that, you don't relate to them as much as you used to, because it's like, they're not necessarily the students who are just more athletic than you were, and you can have that camaraderie. They are paid mercenaries. They're paid to be there. They're enticed greatly, heavily to be there. And so as you go on and on further and further down this road, it's just like fans lose interest.
100%, Dan.
I know, guys. I'm just making a good point here. I'm just saying.
This is in 2-3 years.
Yes.
Fans lose interest because, they just can't relate to the players anymore.
Is that what it is, that they're not relating to the players?
It's hard. How can an alumni who went there, who was probably friends with athletes, who athletes were very similar to them, other than the fact that they're on the field.
That's fine, but when you're in your
to the athletes anymore.
But when you're in your 30s and 40s, and you like, if I didn't work in media, I never would have met Merritt Beeson. But
No.
how am I supposed to relate to her as a Husker
it's
athlete?
harder, but it's harder for fans to relate to athletes on the field because of the compensation, because they're there for very different reasons. When you were an alumni, you went to Nebraska because they were trying, because you wanted to be there, because you wanted to go there, because it was the best place for you, because you thought that you could thrive there and you could be there for a very long time and it would put you in the best position to succeed. Athletes before the NIL era were in the same boat. It was similar reasons as to why they were there.
So
Now,
the NFL
athletes-
is the most popular league in the world because they're so relatable, because they've been
that-
making so much
it's
money.
a little bit different. It's just a higher level product, and there's a lot of passion, and it's older.
Right, but what
But you're
I'm
saying fans are losing interest.
yeah, I'm saying they're
Fans are
losing interest.
losing interest
I-
in the part of the fact because the players with, and it's not
I
the
don't
players'
think
fault.
I don't think relatability has
I-
anything to do with it.
I didn't
I'm-
relate to them
I'm saying
either.
to me, the loss of interest comes from not knowing who the roster is year to year, and that's got nothing to do with being able to relate to someone, whether they're making 50,000 or
You
200,000.
I mean, there are a lot of old head,
Oh,
not old head, but older people who definitely don't like the fact that,
That they're making any money.
well, that it's just a little bit different. And
No,
I think
there's some
it's
people that
hard.
don't like that they're making more
But-
money
but
than they are
college
in their
football-
job.
College football, a part of the reason, and it's not the only reason, but part of the reason college football was so popular is because it was your school and you went there and you knew how it was to be on campus and you knew what it was to be in classes and you knew that, some players and whatnot, and you could see them out and about and relate to them and whatnot.
That hasn't changed.
I think with the amount of money, I was just on campus a couple of years, like not too long ago.
Few
It
weeks
has
ago.
changed a little bit. It has.
There's still
It's
the
less-
athletes are still
it's
going to
not-
class.
No, they are, but it's you cannot deny the fact that it's harder to relate to these athletes now with the NIL era and how much money that they're making every single year.
I
You
didn't
cannot
relate to
deny
how
that.
much the basketball players are getting paid.
And
when
I
was
think
in
that's
school.
part of the reason.
I don't think them making money, let alone how much they're making, has anything to do, like how you relate to a player.
So why are they going from one school to another school? Why are they transferring? So you say
Kirk
you
Heinrich
say-
are the same
you- wait,
person.
wait, wait. You said-
Opportunities
you said-
sometimes.
okay, so money. You
Daniel
said-
Kalen wasn't going to play at Nebraska. He didn't transfer because of money.
Okay, so
He wanted to play.
So Dante Dowdell wanted to play at Nebraska, and then he got enticed out of the portal because teams just went up to him and said, "This is how much we're going to pay. We can go 1 for 1. Probably I can go 3 for 1 in the regards of transfer portal guys leaving due to money instead of opportunity."
Okay, that has nothing to do with relating to the players on the team if somebody decided they wanted to go somewhere else.
Okay,
That-
so
you're talking about-
Is it harder if a player like a player who's now on your third team, who's you're a Nebraska guy, and this is their third college football team?
That's a
Don't you
transfer
feel-
portal. It has nothing to do with
Don't
how
you
much
feel
money
a
they're
little
making.
bit different about that guy than the dude who came up through high school and stayed with the team all the way through? And weren't those guys more common before the NIL era? The high school guys that came up and grew with the team.
That's the transfer portal. And what's unfortunate is the transfer portal became a free-for-all at the same time that NIL got enacted. So a lot of these are entangled. But what you're talking about is the transfer portal and the freedom of movement being so much different. And that's the part that is hard on fans, not knowing who a team is, what a roster is from year to year. To me, that's got nothing to do with how much any of the players make. Because
I'm just saying, look, I'm not anti-NIL.
No,
I'm not
and-
anti-anything like that. I think it's great they're making money. I think it's great they're being paid.
I'm saying
I
the
do think there
relatability has nothing to do with
I
the
think-
with
I
with how
think
much
it's
any of
got-
them make.
I think it's got a lot. You cannot, the school doesn't mean as much anymore. When players go to the school, it's not as much about going to the school as it is about how much it is in your pockets. And I think back in the day, when college football, it was more about the school. And I went to that school, and the fact that that guy's going to that school, and we are there together, and that we are similar in the reasons why we are passionate about the school, made it easier for them to root for. Now that these guys are going, and I don't blame them for going from team to team and taking opportunities for money. I'm not saying that's negative at all, but I do think that has a reason to do with the fact that you can't relate to them anymore. They're not as relatable anymore because the guy's been to 2 schools already. And he's not here because he loves Lincoln, not here entirely because he loves Lincoln. He's here because he's getting a lot of cash. That's not 1-on-1 anymore. It used to be different. And when it used to be about being at the school, being on the campus and loving your school, it was easier to wave your flag, put the foam finger up and say, "Go Huskers."
And
That's part of the reason why, as these things continue, it's going to be less fan interest.
you just made the argument for wanting to not pay people.
No,
Because
no.
it was easier to love them when they weren't making money.
It was
Because they were
easier-
doing it for the love of the
it
game
was
because they couldn't get paid.
I
It
don't.
used to be a go-to line for me.
It was
I don't make
easier-
any money. You can love me.
It was easier to root for people when it wasn't all about the money. When it wasn't all about the
And I'm
money.
sure for some of them, it is all about the money.
Yes. And,
And-
can
and-
you blame them? Do I blame them?
No.
No. But I'm not talking about what I believe in or what I don't believe in. I'm just talking about the fact that there is losing fan interest because not because it's a bad thing or a good thing, just because it's not the same.
Okay,
This
so
isn't the same, and what it used to be, people love.
make your same argument without the transfer portal.
What in regard? Well, I mean, I
Dylan
can't
Wright-
say
Dylan
that.
Wright- yeah,
I can't,
so-
I can't
and-
because my argument is the transfer portal.
And-
The transfer portal exists, and
and
I get
the-
to
and-
make the
and-
argument because the transfer portal
And
exists.
that's what I'm saying. The relatability is not how much money anyone is making. The relatability is the bouncing around. Now, some of that bouncing around comes because of making money.
Yes, exactly. They're one and one.
But not 100% of transfers are because of making money.
Okay, but at the same time, I agree. I'm not going to put a full blanket over this, and I don't think we're never going to know a definitive number. We can argue back and forth all day about how many transfers are about money and what transfers aren't about money. But at the same time, it's enough in the sport. It's clouded the sport enough to know that almost every single, a lot of what's going on in college football has to do about the money. And it's just what it used to be, the passion of the fans and what it used to be, and the relatability of the players has decreased. And because of that, there are going to be fans who loved college sports in particular because of that relatability, because of the connection they had with the school, with the teams, the players, that will lose interest because of that.
Do we relate more to Dylan Raiola because he came as a freshman than Casey Thompson?
Yes.
How much money is Dylan making?
But no. Here's the thing. I would ask you this. Do you relate more to other previous quarterbacks in the Nebraska era than to Dylan Raiola because you knew that they're not necessarily, well, I mean, at least not over the table, making that type of money. But I don't think I think that if Dylan Raiola is here longer, yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to like him more and relate to him more than Casey Thompson because Casey Thompson was a one and done, and you're hoping that Dylan Raiola is a 3-year guy, So that has to do with it. And because of the NIL and because of the transfer portal, and it's back to your point, I'm not totally disagreeing with you. You got guys who are bouncing around. And when you got guys who are bouncing around because of the money and they're not at places for a long period of time, you lose that relatability and you lose that interest. I think we came together there.
Well, yeah,
I think we came together.
It's when people
What
are
she said?
moving for the money. It's not necessarily that anyone is making money. The relatability is the constant movement and not knowing the rosters.
Sure. It's a little bit to do with both. And they're all kind of, I think they're all kind of.
As my daughter would say, I won.
No, you didn't.
I won.
No, you didn't.
Shout out your
No,
daughter.
you didn't. You
Shout out chat,
absolutely-
who is
absolutely
wrong,
did not.
Bayamon. Wrong, Sith Destroyer.
Alrighty, we got one more segment before we get to the guy who's on a heater.
Caleb
Brian
wins.
Edwards, Vegas Insider, coming up at 9:45. We got one more. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620.
Join the Connor Happer Show and unsportsmanlike conduct on the road for the annual Pink Out broadcast. You know it. It happens every year, and it is a pretty special thing. Live from the American Cancer Society Hope Lodge on Friday, January 24th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is next Friday. Mark it down. Stop by and donate for the paper supply drive to help raise awareness and support for the Hope Lodge Omaha.
Alrighty. We are back in business for the home stretch of today's show. I'm Matt McMaster, joined by Caleb Henry, Gary Sharp. Typically, my co-host on Gary and Matt here
That's
on
the name,
1620 is on the road right now, coming back from Denver. He will be back tomorrow. No more Matt in the driver's seat.
You did fine.
I thought I did.
I think you ran the ball.
You did all right.
You had good.
You had some people lying to you saying that you were right. I've got a bunch of people messaging me saying I was right.
We can win with you, young McMaster.
I did fine.
You did fine.
Fine.
This
That's
is
it.
good.
Hey, I want to give a couple shout outs. First off, listener Terry. Terry reached out to me and said, "Hey, Matt, I know that you're moving in to your house or to your apartment right now.
Palatial estate.
I have a couple of furniture items
Ooh.
that maybe you would like to gander at before I put it on Facebook Marketplace." So I went ahead and I actually bought one. I bought a very nice TV set
Nice.
or TV table from Mr. Terry. So shout out, Terry. Thank you so much, my man, for doing that. And then also Kellyanne, our sweet darling, who's been on the,
We
who I've
love
talked
Kellyanne.
before on the crossover. She makes, dude, Kellyanne's got some legendary College World Series tailgate. She also makes incredible sweet treats
She's just
for
legendary.
the holidays. She also,
Is she the one who runs the tailgates at Husker games?
I don't know.
Because there's another one named Kelly who
I don't think.
who
I
has
don't know. No, I
great
think that might,
tailgates.
I think that I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving Kellyanne enough credit, but she does for the College World Series. They're
She'll let us
absolutely
know.
legendary. She reached out to me, man. She gave me pots and pans,
Pots,
and
plural.
bowls and spatulas
Won't get
and
you in trouble.
spoons. Just the nicest listener. So I want to thank you so much for all those people. 1620 The Zone. I'm very, very lucky to be here in this family, in this group, in this culture, in this community.
You got taken care of, man.
I get
did.
taken care of, man. I'm very, very lucky,
did.
which is why I'm so happy to give back. And I don't know if you can see the Keurig that's currently over there. Shout out
How did you pronounce that?
Keurig.
Keurig?
How do I say it? Is it Keurig?
Keurig? Like
I thought it was
cure?
close.
Keurig.
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 Hey, chat. Am I saying it wrong?
Sup, chat?
Hey, chat. Chat, am I cooked?
That-
Chat, am I
not
cooked?
chat.
That is one of the most Gen Z things.
Chat, am I
Just
cooked?
immediate. Hey, chat, what's up?
Chat, what's up? I say that in like conversation. Like I'll just be talking to people. I'll be like, chat,
Why-
am I cooked?
Why do you guys do that?
It's just funny.
like you're not online.
Skibbity, Ohio, man.
What?
What was that? Skibbity chat. You a
Skibbity-
Sigma? You a
That's-
Sigma?
That
You're
sounds
such a
like something
beta.
you do in the toilet. What are you
You're such a
saying?
beta. Such a beta.
What the hell's happening
Not a
here?
Sigma like me.
He's a fish.
Chat, am I right? Chat, am
Sigma
I right?
or Simba?
I didn't rush.
Hell of a band. though.
Neither did I. Thank God.
Shout out Geddy Lee.
You couldn't rush because you're an athlete.
No, I could have rushed. Yeah.
You could have?
Athletes can
No,
be.
but you didn't rush
No,
because you were an athlete.
No, I didn't because I didn't want to.
No, fair enough.
Like, and I know a lot of great. Like, there's a lot of good people that I know did the Greek system.
Yeah.
Shout out Euros.
Oh, same here.
But I was happy with like the system that I was in because it's like its own fraternity.
So, sure.
of the
being
thing
an
of the
athlete,
things that I was doing.
absolutely.
But there were people on my team. Like there were multiple guys on my team that were alphas. There were multiple guys that were SIGAP. Like
that
there were
sounds exhausting.
there were. I know that's part of it
Sounds
too. Where
absolutely
like when I would
exhausting.
hear what they're doing, I'm like, yo, I've
I
got
don't
this.
want to go sing to anybody.
I have this class load that I'm already working on,
I want
and
to go to bed.
I was working in intramurals while also being a student athlete. So like I filled
Dan
up my
Hawkins
schedule
approves.
itself. I didn't need to
Yeah.
be going and doing whatever.
I almost joined a frat.
Which frat?
All of them.
I think it was Kappa Sigma.
Kappa something.
I think I was like, they were like, oh, come.
AFI.
They were like, no. They were like, come to a recruiting event,
Lambda.
and I'm like, but it was so. Here's what happened. It was,
Dan Diamond
COVID.
with you.
It was COVID,
Ah, shout out COVID.
and so it was the peak of COVID. And my mother was like, over my dead body, will you be joining a frat right now and going to Frosches and going to
Oh,
different places,
mingling and all
mingling
that,
with
yeah.
people and
Super
getting,
spreader.
and then you got to come home. Nope, absolutely not. I do not. You're not going to be in that room with that many people.
then he got mono.
And so then I found my friends, and I was like, I don't need to join a frat. But shout out frats. Shout out frats. Not that they need
Shout
to
out
be
Matt's
shouted
friends
They've
because
got
they
a-
made a difference.
Yeah, they got a place.
They got to play. Oh, they still have. It's fun, man. Frats are fun.
Mhm.
Frats and sororities, great time. I miss my man. I miss the college days.
They're so long
Discovering
ago.
Omaha
Last
this
year.
weekend.
Yeah, a few
Hey.
months ago.
Hey, I'll tell you something.
When I was in
Something,
school, the Big 12 had 12 schools, and they were all located in the Midwestern part of the country.
Something. No.
Sounds like a
no,
dream.
Dan. Matt didn't get into a frat. No, I never rushed. I never had the honor to rush it. But I'm
Tell me
discovering-
more about Tom Sawyer.
Listen to something right now. I'm discovering the town of Omaha this weekend. Okay. I'm going to my first bars, to my first places. Matt at 1620thezone.com. I need recommendations, people. Okay. Give me your best Irish bars. Give me your best karaoke bars.
Specifically Irish bars or just
Specifically
best
Irish
bars?
or
Just
just
'cause it's
best
McMaster?
dives. Just give me your stuff.
Just give them
me
a
your
place
stuff.
where you can go meet some ladies
people,
of the
meet
night.
some, or ladies.
Is since you
20
brought
to
that up,
40.
is McMaster Irish or Scottish?
It's Scottish, very good. So we lost a turf war
It's a
back in
Scottish
back in the 1700s. The McMasters lost a turf war. We had like a castle in Scotland,
Freedom.
and we lost that, and so then we had to move to. I'm technically northern.
Skokie.
I'm Northern Irish. I'm not Irish. I'm Northern Irish.
Okay.
And then my family moved from Kirkcaldy, which is in Northern Ireland,
Not Kirk Cousins.
to
Part of the UK, by the way.
to Chicago, and then they
There you
had a
go.
family there.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my family history, but very good, Mr. Henry.
Also Scottish, by
Scottish.
the way.
Very Scottish.
The
Henry, yeah.
majority of where my ancestry is.
So I'm like part Scottish, part Irish, and 50% Cuban. Nothing discreet there. I am Cuban.
Dutch
Cuban,
Irish.
Cuban. Alrighty, we got.
Cubano.
Let me talk about some right now.
Okay.
Brian Edwards isn't on a heater. We are on a heater.
It's a package
We
deal.
are on a heater because we're a package deal. I took his picks last week, and man, I was swimming in it. Rounds on me, people.
Tailed him like it was Sonic the Hedgehog's best
AMF
friend.
pitchers. Put them on my tab. Brothers, no more Mud Club. What a tragedy. Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, coming up next here on Gary and Matt 1620 The Zone. Dollar, 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 dollar. We are in the home stretch of today's show. Gary out, currently on his way back from Denver. Caleb Henry joins me
Hello.
as my co-host, and we welcome in our Vegas insider, Mr. Brian Edwards. Now, Brian, you are not on a heater. We are on a heater, okay? Because I tailed you last week, my man, and you killed it. Your money line parlay hit, your Ravens bet hit. How does it feel? How does it feel? We're rolling in it right now, BE.
It feels good. I'm glad you guys were with me.
Absolutely.
It was a great NFL weekend, and I must concede.
Okay.
I haven't really been betting my NBA that much, and
All
when
right.
I have, it's been in small increments. But I was on a 12-0 run going into last night in NBA only, and went 2-1, so 14-1 run in the NBA. But I'm not like I'm scolding myself more than anything because I don't play a ton of NBA.
Sure.
I mean, I do the picks for Vegas Insider, but I just don't play them that aggressively in the regular season because I'm more watching college than NBA. But I've caught on to some trends, and
Good.
one of them is just to back Oklahoma City Thunder like every game, and even when they play the Cavs tonight, I'll be doing that.
Okay.
So there's my one NBA pick.
All right.
OKC minus 1.5 or 2 at last look at home to the Cavs.
Sipple like that now that he's down there.
Yeah, he's down there right now. Sipple might be moving to a casino right now. So, hey, BE, we'll keep it going here, right? The game of the week, essentially, in the NFL, in the now divisional rounds. Ravens play Buffalo. They're on the road. What do you got for that one?
Yeah, I'm gonna do same as last week. Although I know I recommended the first half of the Ravens last week because it was a smaller number, and then I did the team total. So, but instead of the first half, we're just going to do Ravens for the game at -1.
Okay.
They're on fire, 5 wins in a row, both straight up and against the spread. They've won those games by margins of 14, 25, 29, 17, and 21. The Ravens have played 10 games against teams that made the playoffs this year. They're 7-3, both straight up in ATS in those games, including a 35-10 beatdown of the Bills. Now, granted, that one was at home and way back in September. But they jumped out to a 21-3 lead at halftime of that game. They had a 22-12 advantage in first downs. They out-yarded them 427 to 236. Josh Allen was limited to 180 passing yards and 21 rushing yards. And Lamar Jackson was 13 of 18, 156 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 54 rushing yards and 1 touchdown on just 6 attempts. And Derrick Henry went for 199 yards. So I like the Ravens. And then I'm also going to do the team total over either 25.5 or 26.5 at varying odds. Baltimore, in its 5-game winning streak, they've scored 28, 35, 31, 34, and 35. And they've scored at least 27 in 13 of their last 16. So Ravens -1 and Ravens team total over 25.5 or 26.5. But if it moves, I would like it all the way up to 27.
Would you parlay that, or do you think separate bets for that is where to go?
I don't think. There might be books that allow you to parlay that.
Okay.
I know the ones that I have don't allow me to parlay those.
I got
those two because it's built in Baltimore. So
Sure. Okay.
I don't think you're allowed to.
Okay, sounds good.
Matt just wants to parlay everything, is what it is.
I mean, I just want to make money off of
I'm
BE's
starting to
picks.
sense that.
That's what I do,
Yeah.
man. We're on a heater.
All right, so you said a lot of really, really good names. Are there any player props this weekend that you like?
Yeah, so first off, let me just talk about the sides on each game.
Sure.
So I made Detroit 8. So I guess technically I lean Commanders, but I'm not trying to go against Detroit. And look, Washington and Detroit have probably been my 2 favorite teams to bet on, whether it's been their sides or their team totals over or them in the first half, et cetera. Those 2 teams have been so good to me. So I hate they're playing each other because I just don't know what to do with it. But I'm going to go player props. So I'm going to go Laporta over 49.5 receiving yards. And I'm going to go anytime touchdown for Laporta, which is around plus 148. So he scored a touchdown in 6 of the last 12 games. And in the last 5 games, this is in terms of going over 49.5 receiving yards. His last 5 games, he's had 63, 64, 43. Now that's the one that went under, and then 111 and 54. So he's gone over 49.5 in 4 of his last 5 games. And I think he'll get, it's just playoff time. I think he's going to get more targets. And I think the matchups are going to have him, matched up on linebackers that can't guard him in pass coverage. So I'm going to do the little Porta prop. And look, I'll be looking to maybe live bet some of these games. Like if Washington were to have the lead, somewhat deep into the game, like earlier mid-third quarter, and I could get Detroit like at -4 or fewer, I'd probably be looking to do that. And look, if Detroit is just not unstoppable offensively, but Jaden Daniels is going off, and I feel good about the way Washington's offense is playing, if Detroit gets a 14-point lead and I can grab Washington live at, plus 16 or 17, I might think about that.
Okay.
But I hate throwing that out because it also depends on circumstances.
Yeah, sure.
But live betting, I would be looking for Detroit at a much smaller number, or Detroit or Washington catching like 14 or better.
It's good to be ready.
No, absolutely. It's all about preparation. Okay, so last week you nailed it on the Ravens, Bills, Eagles money line parlay. You got another one for me, Brian? You got another one you're cooking?
Yeah, well, so I feel good about the Saturday games on the favorites. I feel feel good about Detroit and Kansas City winning.
Okay.
So if you do it with Philadelphia, it's only going to, it's not, I mean, I know we had a small plus last week, whatever, plus 105, plus 110-ish, but I think we're barely going to be even money and maybe even like -110 on this one.
Okay.
And the Rams make me nervous. Now,
Sure.
you could do the Ravens instead of the Eagles. And that way it'll be a nice payout, but I'm already going to have so many built-in wagers on Baltimore.
Yeah.
And that's the last one of the weekend, so I hesitate to do that. So I think if you do the Eagles, you hit the first 2 legs Saturday, obviously, maybe you would come back with a little bit on the Rams, but then again, the payout's not that good to be heavy.
Yeah.
So Philly just kind of makes me nervous. Their head coach makes me nervous, and I think the Rams have the head coaching advantage. And Puka Nacua and Stafford, they scare me.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to talk anybody off it. I mean,
Sure.
if you like that parlay, do it. I'm just saying the Rams Eagles part of it is what makes me a touch nervous.
Okay, we'll get you out of here on this. Not only is there football going on Saturday, but man, the UFC's got an incredible card. Makhachev, Sarukian too. You got Dvalishvili fighting Nurmagomedov and Prohaska and Hill. And then, I mean, you even got ranked fights on the early prelim. So what are you looking at for UFC 311, Brian?
Yeah, a 3-leg parlay.
Okay.
With Islam Makhachev, anywhere in the -325 to -375 range. Renato Moicano, who I actually like him straight if you can get him at -160 or cheaper. I see he's -155 at Bet Rivers, but for this conversation, we got him in the parlay. Moicano.
Yeah, and he's fighting Benili Darush.
Correct. Who I believe is on the tail side of fading side of his career,
absolutely,
if you will. And then the third leg is Jailton Almeida, which is on the prelims. He's a heavyweight, so Almeida and Moicano and Makhachev should pay around +150, but I'll also do Moicano straight if you can get -160 or cheaper.
Okay.
And then let's do Almeida to win in round 1 over Spivak, and that should be around +150. And I'm also okay with that fight to go under 1.5 rounds for a -120 price, as I'm confident Almeida will get a first-round finish, most likely a submission over Sergey Spivak.
Okay. I love it, man. I love talking to UFC. I mean, I'm so excited for 311. So I'll be tailing you, Brian. You'll hear about, you'll know that what your results are probably my results. So we always have a good time having you on. I appreciate it, my man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Y'all have a great weekend. And Saturday should be a great sports day. NFL,
awesome.
college hoops, and then cap it off with UFC. Y'all have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, BE. Hey, let me tell you something right now. It's weekends like this where sports bars will never die. They will never, ever die with the UFC going on, with the pay-per-view, with the football. Hey.
You know how I know you've officially moved to Omaha?
Why?
You're excited for 311.
Dude, so excited. Oh, I don't get it, but whatever. Cool.
He doesn't get it?
He doesn't get it.
Right over his head?
It went right over my head. Hey, Caleb Henry, mentor of mine, guy who
What a beautiful disaster.
Guy who hired me for the first time in this market. You and I were in an interviewing room, and you took a chance on me, and you let me work at KLIN. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, co-hosting. Really surreal and just a full circle moment to have you on these last couple of days. Thank you so much.
I've
man.
loved the crap out of this, man. You've come so far. I'm really excited to come up here and sharing what you're continuing to grow. And obviously, you get to hang out with Jimmy and Gary. You got a lot of good folks around you, so I love seeing
A
that.
lot of fun.
crap out of him.
a lot of fun, and a lot of great listeners who I love doing this job for every single day. So thank you so much. Hey, Gary and Matt, 1620 Zone. We'll see you tomorrow with the crew. You're listening to Gary and Matt.